We are live. What's going on, guys? Back for another live stream. We just finished a live about 2 hours ago. Back for another one. What's everybody doing? Give you guys a few minutes to come on in to the chat. Just going to fire off an invitation to Jesse, and he'll pop in when he gets here. We're going to cover some other things in the meantime till Jesse shows up. So, let me just make sure we're live on X. Yeah, we're live. Perfect. All right. What else is going on, guys? All right, so let's have a look at what's going on. Lily's already in the chat. How you doing, Lily? Good to see you. Good to see you. All right, so we're going to get into some things before Jesse gets here, and we'll kind of, I had a couple things I wanted to talk about, so let's have a look. Guys, XCN, look at that, 16% down. What a great entry point. What a great opportunity. Miria, 1/6 of a cent. Wow, good opportunities, guys. I hope you guys are taking advantage of the situation. Bitcoin, 59K. Did I not call 59K Bitcoin over the last 2.5, 3 weeks? Did I not call it, right? I still see further potential to the downside of around a 55K BTC. I think it's entirely possible, guys. So always remember, keep dry powder on the sides just in case we do see that lower level. You want to be ready to take advantage of it, right? So definitely, guys, most definitely. Okay, so let's have a look. What else is going on? What are you guys buying today anyway? Look at the opportunity. I want to know what you guys are DCAing into today. Let me know, guys. Let me know in the chat. I know a lot of you guys are picking up like Swiftcoin, JASMY, XCN. I've got quite a few messages from you guys telling me you're picking those projects up, but yeah, I want to know what else you guys are getting, outside the box, guys. What else you picking up? A little bit of H-bar at 9 cents. Fantastic. Fantastic. So I warned you guys about this as well. So let's have a look. I've been saying this, guys. We were going to see a breakout on the DXY, and this is why we're dumping. Look at the dollar. It's pumping like crazy right now. Now, if we go over to the daily, right? Now, I've been showing you guys this time and time again for the last, 2 weeks. So we're breaking out of this falling wedge pattern, this bear flag, whatever you want to call it, bear pennant. We're breaking out of it now on the dollar, which means very, very bad things for crypto and risk on assets, right? So as long as this is likely going to have a much, much higher pump, in my opinion. So we'll have to see. It could go pretty high, guys. It could go pretty high. So we're going to stay on top of it. And but I've been calling for this, guys, and now we're breaking out. So like I've been saying, boom. Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Hey, man. What's happening? It's been a while.
No kidding. How you been, brother?
Man, I've been busy, tied up into one thing after another thing after another thing. And then outside of that, I've been looking at the market, and the market's just been kind of farting along flat.
Yeah, man, believe me, I know, brother. I've been telling people, there's a lot of frustration, obviously, right now, right?
Yeah.
And it boils over sometimes, like you were joking last night there about, the fudsters and stuff like that. And I'm just like, man, people get so negative. Did you catch my video about the lockup and people saying about the lying and stuff?
No, but I did see. I said that to you last night because I was scrolling through my feed and I saw you were streaming. And I was like, oh, what's he talking about? And I listened in for a few minutes, and you just sounded exhausted.
Absolutely, man. Well, there's this narrative that was going around, and like it was popping up in my comments a lot. Like people were, I mean, look, we're at April 30th, and we've had no word of the 100 million coin lockup yet.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard all about it, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Great point, right? You know, people want confirmation.
Yeah. So, you know, which I understand the frustration in that, right? However, the general sentiment has been like, well, Jasmy lied. And I just like, they're lying. Another lie. That's what I heard. Another lie from Jasmy. And I was just, well, what was the first lie, first of all, right?
Yeah.
Where does this trail of alleged lies begin? Please walk me through this, right?
Yeah. You know, sometimes I think Hara sort of announces the same thing like 3 different times, right? Like I felt like he announced the release of the Jasmy chain at least 3 times. And it was kind of like, all right, you're telling me again. Okay, I got it, you know. And you know, I mean, with this thing and the lockup, I mean, all of that is a hypothetical planned thing that's supposed to occur, right? They've been saying that all along. That's what they're going to do. Okay, fine. Now, is it actually happening this month? Is it happening next month? Honestly, until he confirms it, you know, it's anybody's guess. You know, like when is he locking it up? Who knows? But at the same time, see, this is a great point here, right? Like, look at the market; it's completely red. If you look at like Bitcoin right now, it's straight down, right? The sky's falling on Bitcoin, right? And even if, like, let's say he said, oh yeah, the lockup did happen. Well, do you want him to announce the lockup when the market's down or when the market's going up, right? I mean,
yes.
You know, there's some of that in there. I mean, you know, put it this way. If I was running the project and I knew I said we were going to do it in April, we'd do it in April. But whether they actually get it done in April, I don't know. You know, the thing with them is they're very methodical and they are very determined to follow the plan, right? And so just because they didn't do it yet, or just because we don't have confirmation yet, doesn't mean that they're not still following the plan. Like, I feel like they've always followed the plan to a point of it almost being annoying that they follow the plan too tightly sometimes, you know?
And people get impatient with that plan, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it's a weird thing. It's online stuff, but you know, you brought up a couple fantastic points there, and it's that you know, one thing I was thinking about with all of this was like, just as a loose example, like when a company, let's say that there's a delay on the lockup, right? Let's say that, and they say, oh, it's going to be May instead, or whatever the case might be, right? Now, does the average person, let's say Apple's got a new line of laptops coming out, and then they say, oh, well, they're supposed to come out in April, but then they say, oh, you know what? Something happened. We got to delay the release of these laptops until June, right? Does the average person walk around saying that Apple lied to them? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's this online thing that's weird.
You know, it's kind of like they're moving the goalposts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying, well, actually, it wasn't there. It's actually over here. You know, if you're a long-term investor in it, it's kind of like, well, who cares, right? I mean, it doesn't really affect you that much as long as they still roughly stick to the timeline whenever it's supposed to be. You know, I wish they would have stuck to this timeline exactly, right? I wish the wallet was already out. You know, ironically, I don't know if you saw, there was a post that Lil Bidman did about the Sagan Tosu app with the QR code, and Hara commented on it, and he said, yeah, the QR code is also a functionality that's going to be in the wallet. And I thought, well, that's interesting. That's the first we've heard of that. You know, every once in a while, he'll like sprinkle in something that's going on, and you're like, wait a minute, like, I don't think we ever heard that before, you know?
I was actually going to touch on that, is that with the lockup, I mean, I mean, you could probably count on 2 hands, to be honest with you, the amount of times that Jasmy did something without any major announcement, right? They just, for all we know, they just took 100 million coins and locked them up and didn't bother telling anybody, right? I'm not saying they did. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
with what you just said, I actually did a video on that. It released today, a couple hours ago, on that very topic. But there was no announcement about that or anything. It just was all of a sudden, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how they operate, right? And he said all along that he said they could lock it up through the exchanges, right? So it may not necessarily be something blatantly obvious on Etherscan, right? Like I saw a post on Reddit where somebody was like, "Hey, look at this! They did it, 100 million on the dot," and somebody else was like, "Dude, that was like 1,100 days ago," you know. So that was kind of funny.
Well, another thing you touched on was like long-term investors, and I would like to think that most of our communities are longer-term investors, at least to the peak of the altcoin season, right?
Yeah.
So, I was talking about this the other day. Like, people are so wound up about 100 million tokens being locked up, and I'm like, guys, that's not going to move the needle in terms of price for the coin,
No.
right? And I've got these people saying, "Oh, well, it's it's going to pump it back up over 2 cents." But no, it's really not. It's 100 million tokens out of 50 billion. You know what I mean? Like, the point of it is to be an overtime accumulative effect over the course of a few years,
right?
Not jacking the price up to $1 next month, right?
Yeah. So, I think there's also some assumptions that are being made about, well, Hara said 100 million a month. I've heard that kind of spun a little bit. And I don't know if Hara actually said 100 million a month. I hope he did, but I don't know if that's 100% true.
Well, I talked with Brian about that, and I think what's tip of the tongue? Dip had also said that's my source on that is Dip and Brian.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I reiterate that. So that's their translation of it. Now, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe, but these guys, they know more than I do when it comes to, translating the things that Hara has to say anyways, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And those guys are some of the best research people in the whole community. So, if it's coming from them, I would definitely take that with some seriousness. Now, at the same time, sometimes I feel like, and not specific to them, but just sort of in general, sometimes I feel like the community sort of stretches for things, right? Like I've seen plenty of posts where we're sort of like stretching, kind of reaching, kind of hoping it's something. And it's like, well, it's not quite exactly like that. And usually the way they operate is they tell you exactly what they're going to do, and then they do exactly that thing and nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, there is no reading between the lines here.
No.
Right? Yeah. So for me, as far as the lockup is concerned, I literally, like, would it be nice for Hara to come out tomorrow and say, "Good news, we locked up 100 million tokens"? Sure. But it would be like, yeah, awesome. But at the end of the day, it doesn't move the needle on anything in the near term. And I guess that's the message that I've been trying to get out there is like, guys, whether he does it on the 30th of the month, the 15th of next month, it means squat for the short-term price action of the token. So,
right.
And people say, well, it's about transparency. Look, Hara's done what, 4 AMAs, and it's April. He's done like 3 or 4 AMAs this year. How much more transparency do you want from the guy, right?
Yeah. Endless amounts, right?
He needs to call me on my phone right now.
Give me more now.
Yeah. Like, it can get a little bit extreme, and that's why I've also been trying to tell people, like, look, like, kind of like what you've been doing, man. Life gets in the way, you get busy. You unplug, right? And you go about your life. If things are weighing people down, if people are stressed out because of they're letting the negativity and the toxicity of the lockup hasn't happened yet, just put your portfolio down and go outside or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I often joke about, I go back and I just shoot my son with a Nerf gun. Screw it, right?
That's funny.
Hey, I love it. He loves it. It's a good time, right?
I did that with my son when he was young too. We had all kinds of Nerf guns.
It's almost time for the super soakers. Almost time. Yeah, but I've been kind of calling for this dip for the last couple of weeks. I've been saying 59K, and then like honestly, for me, it's looking like 55 is the next leg down before we see any upward action. But like you were around in 2017, right? And we had like a 38% flush out about 2 weeks after the halving in 2017.
Right.
Right, and it's just people. I guess people don't realize that, you know, history may not be exact, but it will be similar, right? And like we're down now something like 19% or 20% or something like that as of right now. So another, you know, 15 to 20% would be right in line with what happened in 2017, in my opinion. I mean, but then we also saw a V-shaped recovery shortly after that, right? So, and then it was just kind of up and to the right all summer after that. So, it's just, I guess people, in my opinion, just need like a longer term mindset, you know?
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. I think, you know, that whole idea of like the V-shaped recovery, I kind of think it's just BS. Like, you know, you can kind of see it like, you know, I remember when I first started to kind of key in on it, like you can see when they pull it down on some sort of FUD or there's something, right? And then they pull it way, way down. It just drops like a rock, and then it pops right back up like a rubber band, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just far enough to liquidate a ton of leveraged traders. And
Yeah,
it
what a
happens,
coincidence.
yeah, over and over and over. And it's kind of like this endless you know, what was the old cartoon where they had like the fishing pole and you know, and the carrot in front of like Bugs Bunny? It's like the same thing, you know, like they're just dangling it going, leverage trading will make you rich, buddy. Leverage trading will make you rich. And then they go, hey, I'm going all in on leverage. And then they go, boom, liquidated, you know, every time. It's like a mouse trap, slam right on you, you know.
and yet they keep trying, right?
Yeah, and you know the funny thing too with the whole leverage trading thing, I think about this too, right? Like look at like not just now I'm not making this as an allegation, but just sort of in general. Look at like Binance, right? Like how much power Binance has. Think of like market makers that work with Binance, owned by Binance, whatever. Who makes the money when all the leverage is liquidated, right? Who makes the money? Where does follow the money? Well, the money leaves your broke hands and goes to the exchange that had you on there, right? And so, like in this large, like unregulated space, what are the odds that the people with all the money are also manipulating the market? Pretty good, right? Pretty good.
Well, I think 300 million in longs were liquidated today, I think, this morning.
Yeah, there you go. It's always like that, you know?
Who's got that money, right?
Yeah, where did the money go? It didn't just disappear. I mean, it went somewhere, right? I mean, it's like let's dumb this down a little bit. Like, well, who would want to take that money? Who would be after the money, you know? And it's it's the guy that's letting you bet with leverage in the first place. That's who's taking the money, you know? So you know, anyway, you know, the only way that you can beat that is just being long or being DCA, right?
Yeah.
You go leverage. I mean, this is a rinse repeat that happens. I mean, how often does this happen where they tank all the leverage one way or the other? You know, it doesn't matter if it's going up or it's going down. They'll tank it one day just to liquidate everybody, and then we kind of ho-hum back along, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a big problem with it is a lot of content creators, right? Like I have, don't get me wrong, like I have L Bank sponsors my channel, but I don't even really talk about them that often. And I definitely don't talk about their leverage trading on there either, right? Because it's just, I don't encourage people to use leverage trading. For me, like you said, spot DCAing, I've never understood why people long the market. If you're long, why don't you just dollar cost average into your projects, right? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Greed.
you know, there's just too much money on the table that whenever there's that much money on the table, somebody's going to go after it. Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I did a post earlier today about the Bitcoin outflows. Right. So this entire little bearish stretch we've been in, if you look at the Bitcoin outflows, you can see who's selling. Okay. And like a lot of people just don't understand this, right? So Grayscale, when they started out, they had a higher fee. Okay. They were a trust, right? Everybody else was going for the ETF. Now, when the ETF got approved, Grayscale said, hey, we want to convert to the ETF. And they said, okay, great. But the problem is Grayscale's fee is like 6 times BlackRock. Okay. So Grayscale has been unloading Bitcoin nonstop. You know why? Because whoever's holding that Bitcoin, that position in Grayscale, they're selling that shit and they're going to BlackRock, right? So when you look at it, you can see BlackRock's getting bigger, Grayscale's getting smaller. Okay. So, you know, like right now, that's exactly what has been happening. And, you know, there's a few of the other ETFs that kind of do their own thing. Like Kathy Wood's ETF has been unloading recently. The Fidelity one did a little bit, but not really anybody else. Like BlackRock hasn't done that at all. Okay. And the point I made in the post this morning was, you know, when Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy, it's MSTR's symbol, right? When he makes an announcement, does he ever say, hey, yeah, look at those outflows today. Hey, we're going to increase our position and get bigger? No, he never sells. He never sells it. He just keeps adding. He keeps adding and adding. Hey, yeah, we issued, you know, some more shares and we bought some more Bitcoin. You know, that's what he says over and over and over again, right? And so you kind of have like two different schools of thought. Between one group is accumulating, right? They're going, hey, this is a long-term hedge. And the reason why is it comes down to the view of the Bitcoin standard, right? So Michael Saylor, you know, kind of drives this home that why hold large cash reserves when cash is going down in buying power? Why wouldn't I just hold it all in Bitcoin? So that's exactly what he does, right? And so BlackRock is doing the same thing. Now, who's not doing the same thing is like Kathy Wood, right? She's selling. Like I can't really tell if she's trying to play the Bitcoin cycle or if she's trying to accumulate more, right? She's trying to, hey, let's sell some, drive it down low, buy back in and get a bigger position. Maybe that's what she's doing. I don't know.
She's been doing something similar with like Coinbase stock and stuff like that for the last few years, right? So
yeah, and that honestly, it could just be her strategy. And guess what? She can have any strategy she wants. You know, at the end of the day, I don't care about Kathy Wood's strategy, right? So again, I mean, when you look at the long term, you know, I saw another post that said, "Oh man, yeah, the Hong Kong ETF came out today and it only did 11 million. Boo!" You know, it's like, dude, it's day one. Like it's literally day one. I mean, come on now, you know.
I mentioned that in this morning's live stream. I read an article on it and said the Hong Kong spot Ethereum and Bitcoin ETFs leave us disappointed. I'm like, bro, like the United States Bitcoin ETF on the day it launched, Bitcoin dumped, right? What are we talking about here, right?
Yeah.
It didn't. Yeah. Bitcoin didn't pump for like 2 or 3 weeks after the case, right?
Right. And you know, you got to kind of look at like what's the goal behind the ETF, right? So the Bitcoin ETF, I mean, it's really what it is it's a way to get access to Bitcoin from a whole different group of people, a whole different side here, a whole different group of investment companies, yada, 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 right? That can get into Bitcoin now. And what it does is it locks up essentially that Bitcoin, right? So, I think over time that I think the Bitcoin cycles are eventually going to break somewhat. Yeah, I think they're still going to happen, but I think they're just going to be less and less of what they are, and more so it's just going to be a steady volcano that's like building, is kind of really, I think, what it looks like, because most of the people getting into the ETF, I think, are getting into it to hold it long term, as opposed to say, well, let me play the cycle. What's happening next in the cycle? How do I get ahead of this? Right. And maybe Kathy Wood's still doing that. I don't know. But that's kind of like why it's red right now. It's outflows. We haven't been positive,
Yeah, there's been no inflows in like 4 days. I got here today. Grayscale dumped another 245 million worth of BTC. So
yeah.
So like kind of also counters what's happening with Hong Kong. But I had a question for you, because I legitimately don't know the answer to it when it comes to these Hong Kong spot ETFs. Can technically or theoretically, can these big VCs in the States or in the UK, across the globe, anywhere else besides Hong Kong, can they, or do you think there's a possibility they could engage with these Ethereum and spot ETFs out of Hong Kong? Is that legal? Is that a thing? I don't know.
Possibly if whatever platform they're on offers access to it. I remember, this is like going way back, probably like 20 years ago, with I think it was maybe Ameritrade. They started offering access to things kind of like that. Like, here's Asian markets. Hey, now you can trade on Asian markets, outside of, the stock market here in the US, right? So it really just kind of depends on the platform you're accessing. Does it give access to that asset? And, the kicker, kind of the catch there, is they may have their own laws in Hong Kong, but you got your own laws here. You got your own laws in Canada, right? So kind of like Binance or KuCoin or whoever, they still got to be compliant where they're offering the platform, right? And that's kind of the risk that you run a little bit when foreign investing into another country like that is, are they compliant here in the US, right? And like in the case of KuCoin, a lot of people like them, and then they basically got in trouble. They got their hands slapped, and KuCoin just said, we're stopping offering everything to everybody. And it's like, well, now you're kind of losing all of us, right? I mean, I understand that maybe sometimes you got to have a pause, or you need to pivot your strategy, or whatever you got to do. But if you're going to offer a platform in the US or Canada or wherever, you need to make sure it's compliant in those countries, right? And, case in point, I mean, Binance can't even do that. Look at CZ. He's about to go to prison because he wasn't compliant here in the US, Did
you hear how much time he got?
No. What'd he get?
4 months.
Eh.
4 months.
Good for him. He'll be in and out of there in no time.
Yeah, he'll serve 1 month.
Hey, that's the U.S. justice system for you. I remember when they levied that fine on Trump and his businesses. It was like 400 and 500 million dollars, 475, whatever the amount was, and then his attorneys were like, "Hey, what if we could secure less than that? Would that work?" And the judge was like, "Yeah, sure." So they just dropped it by like a third overnight. All right, cool. Call it good.
So I've been kind of paying attention to this. I think this is a bigger scenario playing out for Ethereum right now, and I've been kind of trying to connect some dots, looking at all of the kind of stories that have been going on. I mean, about the Uniswap thing, right? Consensus.
How they had the SEC come against them?
Yeah, they sent them like a Wells notice. So Same thing with you've got the Ethereum Foundation, right? And they've now launched a lawsuit against the SEC as like a preemptive strike because the SEC is investigating them, right? So I'm looking at this kind of like there's just like double-edged sword situation playing out with Ethereum, where it's like on the bullish side, if you can get VC money coming in and bigger money into the Ethereum ETFs out in Hong Kong, right? Well, there's no outflows for ETFs on Ethereum. So you could see Ethereum really start to run as a result, right? But at the same time, this picture seems a little bit bigger with Gary Gensler, the SEC in the United States, because them saying that, they're very clearly going after Ethereum, right? So the thing is, the preemptive strike that they've launched over on the Ethereum Foundation is saying that Gary Gensler and the SEC cannot claim that Ethereum is a security because it would be in direct opposition or whatever contradiction to what Bill Hinman said in his speech declaring that Ethereum was not a security, right? Now, as someone who followed the Ripple case very, very closely, I can tell you that, in my opinion, that defense is not going to work because the judge in the Ripple case declared in court that the Hinman speech was his personal opinion, not the official position of the SEC. So a defense saying, well, Hinman said this in his speech, and now this contradicts that, it doesn't work because in court, it's precedent in court that his speech was declared his personal opinion, not the official position of the SEC, right? So that's all the SEC really has to argue. Like that doesn't fly, and they're not going to lose that argument, right? So, and then you combine that with the attack on Uniswap. Now, do you think for 1 second that the SEC is not very well aware that Uniswap is responsible for about 37% of TVL on all projects on the Ethereum network, right? They're trying to crash this project. They're trying to crash Ethereum, in my opinion, right? This is a coordinated assault that's all leading back to Ethereum. And then Vitalik Buterin, I don't know if you saw his tweet the other day. I made a video on it. The guy's on my Patreon. The guy's a moron. He literally came out and tweeted the other day that he said in his post, I can't remember what he said. He said something to the effect of, look, Ethereum before V1 of Ethereum was a security, or sorry, he said it was centralized. He called it centralized when it first came out, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And you think the SEC is not screenshotting your posts right now and gonna bring it to court? Like,
well, the catch though there is it started one way, but what is it today, right? And I think the argument they try to make is their DAO, the decentralized autonomous organization that governs it, means that it's completely decentralized. It's not one entity behind it, right? And part of the issue there is you have it kind of switching status in the middle. And then the other thing is, like, I don't remember 100% if Ethereum did an ICO, but that's one of the things that the SEC is kind of zeroed in on is did you do an ICO? And if so, then you're a security, right? They just go security, ICO, right? So if you didn't do an ICO, then they go, well, maybe not a security.
Well, in that position, that actually would be the best case scenario for Ethereum, in my opinion, to just settle out of court, because that's exactly how it played out in the Ripple case, as I'm sure you know, right? They said, yes, your initial coin offering was a security, so you're going to have to pay a fine. They're in the remedies portion of the case for that right now, right? How much are they going to pay for those sales? But the secondary market sales of XRP were declared not security. So that would actually be a very good, and it's a precedent has already been set as well, right?
Right.
So I think that would be a positive to set that precedent that ICOs are securities offerings, and it makes sense, right?
Yeah. I think, going back to Uniswap, I think that the SEC is going to target anybody who's based in the US, right? And they're going to kind of gaslight them with a whole bunch of BS. Like they did that to Kraken at one point. Now they're kind of targeting what's that?
2 points.
2 points. Yeah. Yeah, the creator, the founder of Kraken, Jesse Powell, he had posted at one point the different ways that they've been trying to comply. The SEC like screws them over. They try to comply. The SEC does something else. They try to comply. The SEC screws them the whole time, and then the SEC accuses them of not complying. Right? Yeah. He's like, really? Like all we've done is try to comply. And I think with Uniswap, they're based in Manhattan, so they're pretty firmly here in the U.S. I think the SEC is just naturally going to target anybody who is popular. First of all, they're going to go after every popular coin, all the top 20, anybody they can get to, they will go after at some point. And I think with Uniswap, that one might be a little more challenging for them. I mean, it's a decentralized exchange, so this is entirely different. Yeah, I don't know. I had posted at one point, there was that scene from I don't know if did you ever see the show The White Lotus?
No.
So there's the scene in season 2 where one of the main characters, she's on this like boat, and she has this gun, and she's just sort of like firing at will, just firing, the bullets are going everywhere. And I feel like Gary's kind of like that. Like the SEC is just sort of like they found the gun under the bed and they're just firing it through the door and up the wall and down over this way. And, not a single bullet has hit anything, but they just keep shooting, right?
Well, apparently Gary is going to be back in front of Congress again sometime in the next couple of months, sometime this summer, from my understanding. And I am really looking forward to that, because you've got a lot of congressmen right now, like Tom Emmer and stuff like that, and they're chopping at the bit to tear a new. They now feel that Gary lied to them. I'm sure you've seen the articles that Gary lied to them, because last year, I think in the fall, they had him in front of them testifying, and he wouldn't answer the question whether Ethereum was a security or not. He said he didn't know, and the whole time, as a recent court document came out, according to Eleanor Tourette, that they were investigating Ethereum, thinking that Ethereum was a security way before he was questioned in front of Congress about it, right? So they feel that he was being very misleading to them about it, right? And at the end of the day, for me, when it comes to Congress, I think it's enough with the talk. Right? It's enough. You got to do something at this point, because Gary clearly is laughing at you, right? You're sending him letters. You're issuing warnings. You're threatening subpoenas. You're dragging him out on national television and embarrassing him, but he's not stopping, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think Gary's guilty of thinking he's the smartest guy in the room. That's the impression I get from Gary.
Yeah. And it's troubling, because I try to bring this to a human level, right? I try to relate to Gary's position as a man and as a human, right? And I understand that he has a couple of Democrat congressmen sending him letters saying no more crypto ETFs. And I understand that Elizabeth Warren's probably calling him 100 times a day saying, shut it down, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, he's got to know. He's got to be able to read the room, because he's not a stupid man, right? And he knew we've watched him talk when he was a professor about crypto. So we know that he understands that what he's doing right now is incorrect. Right.
Yeah. I think what you're getting at is like, who's pulling the strings, right? And
yeah.
Maybe that's part of it. the way I kind of view it is like the SEC is a entity of the U.S. government, the federal government, right? Um, I imagine it has a charter and it's got to follow the laws of the U.S. Period. Okay, fine. So within the laws of the U.S., it should absolutely be following them. And if somebody who falls under their jurisdiction is not following the laws, then yes, they should bring some sort of claim against them. However, I think in this space, that whole framework, it's like the skeleton we have is like missing some ribs, it's missing a leg, it's missing a hand, and Gary's just sort of guessing with like a chalk outline. See, like yeah, we have jurisdiction here. And it's like no, not really. You don't. Like I feel like he's reaching again, like all over the place, saying, "Well, see, we're the SEC and we have jurisdiction over here too." And it's like, well, no, you don't. And even the was it the Commodities Trading Commission, whatever, they kind of came out as well. I want to say there was like something contradictory where the SEC was trying to like stake a claim over something, and they were like, no, actually that's a commodity. Thanks, goodbye. And the SEC just looks kind of dumb,
Well, that's what's happening right now with Ethereum, is that they are literally arguing over it. The chair of the CFTC has multiple times, and even recently, over the last, I think, 2 weeks, come out and again said, look, Ethereum is a commodity, right?
Yeah.
And you've got Gary trying to call it a security. Like, at what point do we, I guess the point is, at what point do we shut this guy down? I mean, his term ends, I think, January 25th of next year. And traditionally, when there's a change in cabinet in the White House, the SEC, I looked into it, the SEC chair usually resigns traditionally, right? When there's a change. Because, I mean, you can see the writing on the wall, right? You're probably getting replaced anyway. You might as well leave with your dignity intact, So my thought is that, is Gary going to be the first commissioner to break that tradition and actually stick around because he has so much conviction in what he's doing, right?
Well, possibly, yeah. I think our various government legislators stick around far too long, right? Across the board, doesn't matter which party it is, they all do it. And I have this conversation kind of on the side all the time about succession planning, right? That you should always have that next man up, next woman up, whoever that is, that you've been developing, and now it's their turn, right? And it's time for you to go on with your merry ways, bye-bye, right? But we don't operate like that, here in the US, like Dianne Feinstein in California, she was 94, 95. She finally just died, right? And it's like, thank God you finally died, and you finally vacated that post. Like, she should have left that post 30 years ago, I mean, come on. I mean, there's a lot of that going on right now, I think, across the board. I mean, look at Biden, look at Trump. They're both extremely old. They're both too old, both of them, You can look at both parties and you can clearly see where people stay in office too long to the detriment of the country because of their own personal issues, right? And so would Gary now follow the same path? Yeah, I don't see why not,
Well, what I don't understand is why you would have a 2-term limit for the president, but you wouldn't instill those sorts of limitations on other branches of government, right? It's weird. It's like,
you got to go back to FDR. So when Roosevelt was president, he had 3 terms. And that's when the law changed, because they said, look, we don't want this guy back again for like a 4th term. And I think he eventually just died right away anyway, from, polio and whatever. So that's why it affects the presidency. But then you've got other areas of the, especially the U.S. government. Like, one of them that drives people crazy is the Supreme Court. I mean, they're just lifers, Like, I made it in. Good luck getting rid of me. I'll be here the next 45 years. You're like, oh my God, really? Like what other position does that happen? And the funny thing too is, I mean, just regular people, right? I mean, most people get to a point in their life where they're like, you know what? I'm ready to retire. I'm ready to call it a day. I'm ready to live the good life. And some of them, I mean, they just want to stick it out endlessly, just on and on and on and on. Like here in the U.S., a popular conversation is term limits. That there really should be term limits across the board. And I heard it explained really well recently, where somebody was saying, I can't remember which position it was, but it was basically that they'd have like about 12 years, okay, in their entire career, right? And they said, if you think about it, kind of like school, like here in the U.S., you've got grade 1 through 5 is elementary, 6 through 8 is middle, 9 through 12 is high school, right? And what if your political career was kind of like the same thing? You had 3-4 year terms, and that was the max that you could ever get, right? That would be good, because if you were in that last term, you would have to be kind of setting up the next person, But right now that we don't have that. And so, case in point, Gary, who's the next man up behind Gary?
Probably Hester Pierce.
Maybe not, right? I mean, I'm sure you have to be confirmed, Yeah. I don't know.
I guess that'll be whoever wins the next election. Well, that's the thing too, right? Like, there's two different trains of thought on this as well. It's like, so let's say that if Trump wins, that Gary's gone. That Trump's going to want to put his own guy in there, right? That goes without saying.
Trump likes to not fill positions.
Yeah.
There might just be no one in it.
The problem is that Trump loves to, and is very good at, financial and economical issues. So he's definitely not going to want to have someone in a branch like the SEC who's going to be doing things counterintuitive to what's good for the economy. And what Gary's doing is, at the end of the day, not great for the American economy, right?
Nope.
So, but then there's the other side of that. If Biden was to actually win again, is he going to say, okay, Gary, you're embarrassing us, we got to replace you? Or is he going to stay in line with what he's doing and say, yeah, because we all know what the White House's current status on crypto is, right?
Whenever they ask Biden a question, he looks like you just woke him from a nap, and he's kind of like, what? His voice is real quiet and gravelly, and he's going, why would you ask me that? Of course, we'll leave it alone. Just don't ask me anything else. He as he's gotten older, he's totally like that all the time.
What's his catchphrase? Come on, man. Let's see if we got any questions in the chat here. Going back to, I guess, the exactly my thoughts, announce it when, where I guess we're talking about the lockup. Yeah, and it's the same. It's the same with XRP. I was saying that in the court case. I said, man, I don't want the case. I don't want XRP, like Ripple, to win the case in terms of XRP on the secondary market while we're in the bottom of a bear market. That's not optimum timing, right?
Yeah.
And you had all these content creators with their clickbait saying XRP to $10 as soon as it happens, right? I was like, we literally had less than $1 trillion in the entire asset class at the time. And I'm like, so the case wins. I said 80 to 90 cents tops. And then like a couple weeks later, the case ends in that aspect. And sure enough, pumps to 80, 90 cents and comes back down. And people are like, I thought we were going to $10. With what money?
Yeah.
Where was this magic money coming from? We're in the bottom of a bear market, right? So that's exactly my thoughts, is that, I would like more bullish announcements out of Hara and JASMY as we get closer to the fall and the actual kind of bull run kicks off, right?
Yeah, fair enough. I think though the flip side of that is that Hara has said publicly a few times that the way they've kind of engineered their schedule and everything with JASMY is that they don't think the cycle should affect them. Right? Now, of course it will, but they like to think that they're kind of impervious to the cycle. So whether the market's up or down, I don't know if they really care, to be honest.
That's true. Yeah. That's my one thing that I disagree with what I've heard Hara say over the last, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years, is that they feel that the effects of the bear market won't affect JASMY as violently as it has in the past and the rest of the market. I strongly disagree with that. JASMY will recover and do fantastic in the following bull run, just like everything else, but it's not going to stay up 70, 80% while the rest of the market plummets, right? It's just not.
Right.
Is the dip coin on Crow legit? I've never even heard of it, man, to be honest with you.
That'd be really funny if Dip had his own coin. He would probably do something like that. but no, actually he would not, because he's in the financial world. But if he wasn't in the financial world, he might.
People keep asking me on the channel to make a meme coin. I'm like, guys, I know so little about this stuff. They want to call it the Rob coin. I know so little about this stuff. I would probably accidentally rug everyone, including myself. Right?
Yeah, that's a tough thing to do. There was a channel at one point that he was like a former developer for Google or something like that. And he created a coin, and it was like a lion was the emblem. I don't know if it was lion coin or whatever it was, and he had all these tokenomics that were like, yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to go straight up, And of course it did what they all do. It came out, it spiked, it dropped like a rock to never return. Right.
So wait, are you telling me that Ben Coin's not going to the moon?
I was thinking about Ben Coin when I was saying that also.
I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah. Ben Coin's legit, man. I'm telling you. I heard it from BitBoy. He told me about it. He told me to get Ben Coin. I put 10 grand in it, and now it's worth like $20, right?
It's going to pass Ethereum.
Yeah, of course it is.
Tara, the Japanese are very honorable. I spent much time there. Their words can be counted on. Yeah, I agree. I've never been there, but I agree.
Yeah.
Dip is legit. I think I just stuck $100 into it. Yeah, I think Dip's actually like some meme coin on Crow that launched or something. I don't know. Yeah. People have been talking about it this morning. Yeah. Not to be confused with Dip Metaverse, guys. Don't be DMing him saying he rugged you.
Yeah, you rugged me with that BS coin you put out.
He's like, what? Rob and Jesse said. What's up, Boomer? Good to see you, buddy. I heard 100 million lockup a day. Yeah.
I doubt it. You're going to need bigger diamond balls for that claim.
Oh man, yeah, it's a month. It's a month. No, not to my knowledge, it did not. Chronic Jack, I bought 300. Okay, nice. John, good to see you. Phil, hey guys, what do you think of Neon? I seen it listed on Coinbase today. I was watching something on Neon last night, and I can't remember what it was. Oh shit, it's gonna bug me. Anyway, I'm neutral on it. I haven't done enough research into it yet to really tell you, to be honest.
Yeah, I would say no comment for me on that one.
Yeah. I'm sure if you have businesses overseas, you can purchase in their markets. Well, that's what I was thinking. Like these bigger VC companies and stuff, they have to have channels to be able to purchase in other countries and stuff, right? You would think they have access to things that we just simply don't, right?
Could be, yeah.
So that's another factor that I feel could really start to, I could see a lot of these big money people saying, okay, you know what, Gary, you don't want to approve an Ethereum ETF. We're just going to buy it over in Hong Kong. We'll just go around you,
That's one way to do it, or, I mean, there's always a way around things, right? I mean, always. Like, I don't know if you remember the Panama Papers. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it's like this dossier of all these people squirreling their money somewhere in some tax haven around the world. It was like this, in this case it was Panama. And it was like, yeah, like there's always a way to kind of get around various rules that are in place. It's the rules for thee, not for me.
Especially if you have money.
Yeah.
Who is CZ that got arrested and supposed he was was he the founder of Binance? I know he was a CEO, but was he the founder as well of Binance?
So he's a co-founder of Binance and the former CFO of OKCoin.
Right. Yep. Yeah, he got that's not the reason that the market dumped, because he got 4 months in prison. We've known he was going to prison for like 8 months now. So
yep, true.
In fact, it's actually bullish that he only got 4 months, because they were looking at like 3 years.
It is. The interesting thing was he agreed to up to 18, and the prosecutors said, we want 3 years. And then they give him 4 months when he was saying, well, I don't want any. So honestly, 4 months, I mean, he'll survive, Yeah.
He's going to spend the summer in some white collar prison somewhere, completely away from general pop, and, cushy with his money, buying him all the amenities. He'll be fine. Right.
Yeah.
He'll be roommates with Sam Bankman-Fried.
I saw his mugshot the other day. It was pretty funny.
Man, I'm sure the SEC has come out and stated supply chain tokens would not be considered securities. I would put VET and maybe JASMY in that category. Would make sense. Well, I'm not worried about them coming after JASMY, because it's a Japanese company for starters, right? So, I mean, do they even have the jurisdiction at this point? JASMY doesn't really have much of a foothold in the United States at all. So,
well, I mean, they've always made an effort, though, to be compliant, always. So I would expect JASMY to be fully compliant.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not concerned at all, right, about that. They've met the regulatory standards in Japan, and that's another factor that I was seeing. Shout out to Little Bidman there. He was talking in his post. He was talking about how the that PDL is actually, like you were talking about, is active. And he was also saying you could actually do play to earn games and questionnaires and surveys and stuff like that on that PDL, but it's only active on Apple for one, and for two, only in certain regions. Like Poland, it's not available, but in the United States, it actually is available, right? But in saying that, so people are like, well, what regions and why is it not just active everywhere? Well, there are regulatory hurdles that JASMY has to overcome in every country separately, right? So, like, they can't just go, here it is, right? Like,
well, and the biggest hurdles to date have all been in Japan, believe it or not. So that has a big part of it.
Yeah, and I mean, so the fact that it is actually active in the U.S. tells me that, I mean, they must have been in some sort of contact to make it available in the United States, falling under some sort of compliance on some level. Because again, if they're not in other countries because of regulatory compliance issues right now, they wouldn't just plop it out in the United States. Just they would jump through the same hoops. I agree with you 100% on that. So it's a good sign. It's a good sign to me. So Raffaello, crypto's dead. Okay. Well, I mean, feel free to be our exit liquidity at the top, man. You're more than welcome to leave crypto, brother. I won't talk you out of it. Rob Coin sounds sketchy.
That's funny. Yeah. if there's a Rob coin, we're like,
No.
I'm telling bro. You guys, pick it up. I'm telling you.
We're getting a DEX. We're getting the DEX. We're going to the moon.
Yeah, if you start posting while you're driving around in your Dodge while pounding energy drinks, we know something's up.
maybe bring a mistress in the back seat.
Yeah. Get a new tattoo of her name somewhere on you. Some terrible place, bad positioning because you were wasted when you got it.
Bruno, awesome guest on your show. Yes, definitely, guys. Bruno, go give Jesse a sub over on KIR Finance on YouTube, and follow him on X as well. Drops a lot of good alpha, man. A lot of good alpha.
Yeah.
So he's been hiding lately.
I have, yes. Sometimes I go a little dark. I'll go in stealth mode for a little while when things are kind of quiet, or there's just not something that just gets me, and I'm like, I gotta talk about it, Then I'm kind of under the radar a little.
Yeah, I'm like that with everything.
Yeah.
ASML, Rob, what's your thoughts in ASML? Is a Dutch company, has a lot to say against Japanese technology. I heard a podcast. I know literally nothing about that. Do you, Jess?
No, have to look it up. Don't know that one.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to that kind of stuff, I guess my official stance would be that I don't really care what somebody else, like, if they have a lot to say against Japanese technology, that doesn't really mean much to me personally, because it's just that it's an opinion, right? That's like, what the hell am I supposed to do with that, right? Like, I have my own opinion, and I kind of act accordingly.
So let me segue into something else real quick. This is a little bit different. So, have you been following any of the recent rumors of who Satoshi may be?
The only ones that I've heard is KASPA community trying to say it's the dude who created KASPA. That's it.
Okay. So there's a new theory out there, and anybody could Google it and you could find it, but it basically centers around some computer scientists that are Japanese. Okay. And when you combine a few of their names, you come out with Satoshi Nakamoto, basically. Okay. And what's interesting is some of their peer-reviewed papers, etc., some of their events that they've been at, they've spoken on, tied directly back into those original days of Bitcoin very closely. And so what I find just fascinating, I mean, nothing is confirmed, right? It's all speculation. Let me just say that. But on the side, me and a few of the other guys are kind of looking into this. But nothing's confirmed. But knowing what I know about the Japanese, just from all the research on JASMY and the way that everything kind of works in the background, and like the Keiretsu idea of these 2-3 parties plus that work together for like a common goal, right? There could be something to it. And the way that the Japanese operate and the way that they are so methodical, I think that they were theorizing the idea of Bitcoin a good decade before they finally figured it out. And when they did it, I think they purposefully launched it anonymously. One of the things that I saw a post on Reddit that was a screenshot from like 2011, right? And it is a screenshot of a guy saying that he's going to do a speech at the CIA today, and he's going to be talking about Bitcoin and all the implications of it, right? And this was in like one of the main Bitcoin forums. And apparently this post is dated like a day or two after Satoshi went dark, never to return. Okay. And it was him saying that he was going to be talking about this legitimately at the CIA in front of everybody. And in his view, he was saying, I don't think it runs against the dollar and this and that. And, really it has a lot of things that align or whatever. But I think he dropped that and then they went, whoa, and pulled back big time, right? So So these guys that were involved in these papers and these presentations, they were pretty much active right up until Bitcoin went live, and they've all gone dark after it, and they've all just sort of went into complete obscurity from being like heavily involved in cryptography. Okay. And, you know, like I said, they were researchers, and it ties back to IBM, and it ties back to another company prior to IBM, where they all came about. And then one of the conferences, so I don't know if you know the full backstory of Bitcoin, but the person who apparently got the first Bitcoin was a guy named Hal Finney. He eventually got Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, and died. Okay. So the rumor has always been like, oh, well, maybe it was him, right? Because he died. He's now gone, and Satoshi's coins have never moved, whatever. But these guys tie back to one of the conferences that was in Hal Finney's hometown. There's like, it's more than like a little smoke here. It's like I can see some flames in the woods on this one, you know, and I'm like, huh. And so where I'm going with all of this is JASMY shares a founding with Bitcoin of April 16th, which is, quote, Satoshi's birthday. Okay. And so who's to say that Satoshi, and I think this has been true the whole time. I think it's a group of people. They refer to it as a collective, right? Or in Japan, a karetsu. Okay. This is how they work there. So if Satoshi is actually a karetsu, a group of Japanese scientists that were developing this for 10 to 20 years, they put it out anonymously once they finally figured, holy crap, we did it. They probably thought at the beginning, oh, well, it's just a great way to, you know, pay your friend playing video games or something like that. But I think they knew that it would and could be far larger, right? And so the second the CIA post happens, they all go dark, never to be heard from again. Hal Finney dies, and it's kind of like he's the Titanic. It was on board. Who knows? You know, like it's gone. I don't think that's true at all. And I think they know they did it. I think that if they had publicly released it, it could be something that, I mean, they could be like, you know, like in Japan, I think they cane you. Like if you're like in trouble, like they could have been caned to death. You know, you see them on like a Last Samurai, they take the sword and they stab it in the gut, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like you kill yourself because you're dishonorable, because you're against the Japanese yen, because you released a currency that kind of competes with it, but not really. It's different, right? Yeah. You can kind of see all the reasons why they would have just done it and sort of faded out. And all of those guys, all those research scientists, they were all highly successful, right? Just like all the old guard at JASMY are highly successful Sony guys, same thing, right? So, you know, do they even need the money? No. And I think they always knew that if they pulled it, then now you have like especially here in the US, you have the FBI cyber intelligence part of the FBI that cracks these things left and right. And there's always a paper trail somewhere for the most part, unless you're North Korea and you're using Tornado Cash. But that's a different story. So I don't think Satoshi would ever do that, right? And so when you think about the principles of Bitcoin, the way it's set up, the way it's engineered, the way Satoshi went dark, the way these coins have never moved, I think it's a Japanese invention. That's what I think. Mm-hmm. I think that's true because of what I know about the Japanese. And what I wonder, the thing that's sort of gnawing in the back of my head right now is, have any of these guys ever crossed paths with like Ando, you know, the IBM side of it, you know, like why did they pick April 16th? Was that just they pulled it out of their ass, or was it really purposeful? Right?
That's a pretty big coincidence. Yeah.
It's a very big coincidence. Yes. And you know, when you look at Japan, and the smart cities, kind of the way of the future, the way they're digitizing everything. I think there's more to this story. Now, whether you can ever actually prove it or not, I don't know if that's ever going to happen, right? But this is the most plausible explanation I've ever seen on it. And when I started digging into it, I think it's real.
So let me ask you this. Do I sense a KIR finance video in the making here?
No.
Damn it.
One of the guys when I posted earlier made a comment like that, like, well, maybe you should talk about, these outflows of Bitcoin on your channel. And I thought, every time I post a Bitcoin video, no one gives a shit. So I'm not posting them anymore. You can find a Bitcoin video somewhere else. All right.
Oh, man. And I'll tell you right now, man, lately, views have been so down.
Yeah.
Because of just the boringness of the market and stuff like that. I guess a lot of people too are probably gearing up for summer. They're probably going to step away and stuff like that. But yeah, like, I get the same thing. I get requests for videos. People are like, hey man, can you make a spell token video? And I'll make like 2 or 3 spell token videos to see how they do over the course of a couple of weeks. And just atrocious views, right? Like, well, can you do another video on this? It's like, guys, you know what? I spend like 4 or 5 hours doing research on this project and then I piece together a video and I break it all down and I talk about it. And then like 20 people watch it, right?
Yeah.
That's not worth my time. Right.
Right.
I try to talk about those types of things on my live streams so that, I'm not exclusively spending my time on that project. But absolutely same with Bitcoin. My Bitcoin videos have been doing okay lately, but more of it is just because I think people want to know what the hell's going on, right?
Yeah. I see. What I like is the backstory, right? So if you know the backstory of Bitcoin, and let's say hypothetically it was founded by some Japanese computer scientists, then you kind of see the way the Japanese government is doing things. You kind of see the way that JASMY does things, and it kind of makes a lot more sense. I think when it's in context, it makes a lot more sense. I think, the idea that there's just like a guy and he just came up with a Bitcoin and it just happened to work. And then he just went anon and no one ever found him again. It's like, I don't believe that. I'm reading the comments here. The one that says there are no coincidences. I agree with that 100%. I do not believe in coincidence whatsoever. So I think there's a lot of truth in this one with Bitcoin. And Bitcoin moves the whole market,
Let me ask you this then. What do you think is a realistic possibility as to why his wallet has never moved any Bitcoin, considering how much value it has? Do you think maybe when they went in front of who was it you said? They went in front of Congress. Was it?
Yeah, they did a crypto conference.
Yeah. So do you think maybe that the U.S. government maybe forced the keys to that wallet away from them and said, okay, fine, but no?
Nope, I don't think so.
So who do you think?
I think they could access that wallet if they really wanted to, but I don't think they're ever going to do it.
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead.
Maybe they've split the seed phrases up to between themselves, and no one person can access it or something.
I don't.
Sounds like a movie.
Now, I think if it was built in the U.S., then yeah, I could see a possibility like that. Yeah. I don't think so though. I think it is simply each of these guys is highly successful on their own. I think they know they created something that changed the world, right? That's kind of like the secret they're going to take to the grave. You're never going to get it out of them. And honestly, they have families, they have kids. They don't need, the press of this, right? Like, when Luna went down in flames, I remember reading that there was somebody like at Do Kwon's condo or something, like banging on the door, and his wife answered, right? Somebody that's like, where the hell is my money?
It's probably BitBoy.
You know, BitBoy did go to the Bahamas. I don't know if you ever saw that. He went to the Bahamas and he was like in the parking lot below SBF's condo, you know, his penthouse. He was like, "Come on, where are you?" And he was like standing next to his crappy Accord.
Then he took credit for it all, right? Because he did that.
He's like, guys, I did that. Yeah, somebody had to come and do it. And I'm the guy. I'm here to police him and keep him in check, you know.
Now he's in jail because of me.
yeah, I took him down. Bit Squad for life. You know.
100%, man. 100%.
Yeah.
What else do we got in the comments here? I would say that there's a lot of resistance at the 1.6 area for JASMY. There's strong support. I think if Bitcoin goes down to, like I said, if we see a 55 to 52K Bitcoin, I think JASMY's got some pretty decent support around 1 cent 2, somewhere around there. Pretty solid. I mean, 1 cent 7 was hard as hell to break through, and it fell through it finally, but even now it's not that far below it. So how often do you think there will be an update roadmap from JASMY team? Every year, right?
Annually, yeah. At least it has been, and it's been getting better year over year. It's a more detailed roadmap.
I understand this is a loaded question, but is Larry Fink and BlackRock good or bad for crypto? Well, see, I'm going to give my position on this first, and then you let me know what you think. For me, I mean, this bull run, and then probably the next one after 2029, 2030. In my opinion, if you're in crypto right now, you should have accumulated enough wealth to be able to walk away from crypto at that point. And it's going to take roughly that much time for these incumbents to really seize control and centralize this digital asset space and make, for example, the banks be the custodians and, you know, basically shove TradFi down our throats to the point where it's just merged with the digital asset space, right? It's going to take that much time for this to play out, right? Because it's the frog in the boiling pot, right? So I think at this point in time, if you're in crypto now, by that time, you should have accumulated enough wealth for it not to matter to you anymore anyway, unless you are legitimately only here for the technology, right? What do you think?
I don't know. You know, that is kind of a loaded question, right? Like, you could say, like, look at BlackRock's impact on real estate. Is that good or bad? A lot of people would probably say it's bad, right? Looking at it in the terms of crypto, you know, their platform, their ticker works through Coinbase, and Coinbase is the custodian, right? You know, there is a risk of what if somehow Coinbase gets hacked, right? Somebody gets to them somehow. I don't know if that's possible. Who knows? So yeah, there are some risks there on that front. The flip side of it, BlackRock is very popular, right? The name, everybody's heard the name at some point. Everybody knows that BlackRock has a lot of money, right? And so I think that naturally attracts certain investors. Also, they have a very low fee. You know, Larry Fink, you know, the funny thing, asking about him specifically, it's kind of like asking about like Jamie Dimon and JP Morgan, right? You know, like on one hand, the TradFi people love Jamie Dimon. You know, he can do no wrong. King Jamie, love him. On the other hand, if you actually follow JP Morgan and what they put out publicly, they're like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. You know, they're the guy wearing the half the white suit, half the black suit, and it just depends on the day which side JP Morgan's on. You know, and so Larry Fink, going back in time. He was not on board with Bitcoin at all. Not on board with it, not on board with it, not on board with it. Now they went for it, and now he's like way on board with it. So,
well, like with Jamie Dimon, like you were just saying, I remember, I think it was about 2 years ago, give or take. He was on national television, I think Fox Business or something, and he was calling crypto a Ponzi scheme again, like he usually does, right? The same day that this happened, I was reading an article. JP Morgan had tripled their digital asset department. That's why I tell people, watch what they're doing, not what they're saying. Right?
Sleight of hand.
Yeah, and he's just playing, in my opinion, he's doing the same thing that Fink did. He's just playing catch up. At some point, he'll flip the same way Fink did, and he'll be singing the praises of Bitcoin and crypto the minute they are positioned to benefit from it financially.
So let me ask you something. If the whole crypto market is based on Bitcoin, and knowing what you know now about what I was saying earlier with potentially being invented by Japanese computer scientists, do you think that anonymous Japanese computer scientists would release a Ponzi scheme to the world?
Rhetorical, I assume.
That's a rhetorical question. Ding, ding, ding. He gets 1,000 for that one, Alex.
I agree. And I try to ask those types of questions all the time to people when they ask me this kind of stuff, right? Like,
yeah.
Oh, I heard that JASMY was a scam, right? And I say, well, I mean, I don't know. Let's evaluate the situation. Would the Japanese government partner with a project that's a scam? Would Panasonic partner without doing their due diligence into a company? I don't know. Well, let's look at the history of Ondo and Sato. And I mean, have they ever scammed anybody in the past before? So, I mean, look at these things and then you tell me, is JASMY a scam, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I saw a Reddit post recently. You see these every so often, right? Where new people are getting into the market and it's like, hey guys, I bought some Bitcoin, and then the post was like, so what do y'all think? and I commented and I said, congratulations, you've now woken up from the Matrix. And that's basically how it is, right?
Yeah.
And so there's two sides to this coin, right? Like you could go on living your life blissfully ignorant. Everything's a coincidence. Good always wins, bad loses. People are out to do the right thing, whatever. Or you could wake up from the Matrix. Remember when he woke up and he's in like the pool of goo? Yeah, and then the machines are, trying to electrocute whatever, and then he gets flushed, and then he finally, gets in the spaceship and they eat like 3 steps down from oatmeal. And that's all they have to eat, and the one guy is like, I wish you never woke me up, right? I wish I just stayed asleep and I didn't know, because here we are and I'm miserable, right?
Yeah.
There's some truth to that, especially in the crypto world. If you really start getting into it and really start digging into things, you start to learn a lot over time,
You see how ugly the world truly is, right? And I agree with you with that 100%. It's sometimes ignorance is bliss, but for me personally, I'll take the, being down once in a while emotionally because I understand more than the average person does, as opposed to, being one of these people who spends my entire life living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to get by, and continually watching the value of I can't even save money because my dollar devalues every year at a faster pace than my interest rate is going, right? Like,
yeah,
it's a never ending, and they want it that way. And I try to tell people that too, just like you said, is that, these people say, well, it's too big. It's a conspiracy. Like, I say, like, look, guys, like, this is what's happening, with the government, with the big money, with BlackRock, Jamie, all this stuff. This is happening. Why do you think accredited investor programs and stuff like that exist? So that you stay where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, well, that's just a conspiracy. So no, it just is. It's not a conspiracy, right? And you just are too comfortable. They've made your life of mediocrity too comfortable to want to snap out of it, so to speak. Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see it.
I think the biggest thing that, I've kind of come to the realization is time goes on no matter what, right? And so eventually you can have pursued an opportunity, or you can have skipped it, and time goes on, and then you're not getting that time back. Like I think I mentioned to you before, going back to the early days of Bitcoin, I didn't know anybody who was into it. Nobody said, hey, Jesse, you should check this out. Likewise, it's my own fault, right? I should have looked into it. And I think back to that time period of my life, and even through today, I mean, not a day goes by that I don't completely light a $100 bill on fire. I mean, it just happens every single day. It's like, holy cow, like, where'd all the money go? It's just like gone. And you look back to like those early days, and it's like, man, if I could have been buying then, decade later, I'd be rich. Well, when you fast forward to today, and you fast forward with all this, all these coins being taken out of supply, right? Long term, Michael Saylor isn't unloading. Yeah, I'd be surprised if BlackRock starts doing it. And so you think about, I've shared with you also, when I did do that last video on Bitcoin, no views, that where I basically made the assumption, kind of in the math of this thing, that between the mining and between the existing supply, I think it's completely tapped out between the next 5 to 10 years. So who's to say that if you're not buying it now, 5 to 10 years from now, it's like how it was 5 to 10 years ago. Now, obviously it's a different rate. I get that. But I think that this might just be a little lull in the life cycle of Bitcoin. And then it could be going up exponentially, in like the 2030s. Easy. It could be going up exponentially.
I truly do believe that it is inevitable that we will see a minimum of a $1 million Bitcoin. That's why for me, at the peak of every, obviously at the blow off top, the peak of every market, whatever you want to call it, when I'm exiting the market, I make sure that when we get close to the bottom ish, right? So the end of 2026, let's say roughly, when we've bottomed, the market's bottomed 80 to 95%. I literally take 50% of my profits from this bull run and I put it into Bitcoin as close to the bottom as I can, right? So let's say plan B is saying right now a $300,000 Bitcoin next year by the peak of this market, right? 250 to 300. So if it goes to 300, then what? It's going to fall down to what? $30,000 to $40,000 in the bottom of the next market cycle, roughly, right? I'm taking 50% of my profits, and they're going right into Bitcoin.
Right.
Make no mistake about that, right? And I just hodl the Bitcoin, right? That's the one thing I don't sell at the peak of the top is my Bitcoin. And then I take 25% and I have that as a nest egg, and maybe buy vehicle or whatever I need in my day-to-day life. And then the other 25% I save to accumulate more altcoins throughout the course of a bear market, right? Start with your blue chips and work your way to DGen, right?
Yeah.
But I do believe that you should do that. You should take 50% of what you make. And when when Bitcoin's down like 80%, start putting that money, 50% of that, into Bitcoin, because it's going to be $1 million in my opinion.
Yeah. Did I tell you about the Coinbase commercial with the pizza?
No, I don't think you did.
Okay, so Coinbase recently released one in honor of the halving, and it was like, at the beginning, you needed you know, with 10,000 Bitcoin or whatever, you could get this much pizza, and it was like a pizza box, right? And then it's like 4 years later, now you got 6, 7 pizza boxes, and then it was like 4 years later, now you got like 70 pizza boxes. Now it's today. Now you got like 700 pizza boxes, 7 million of them, whatever. It's just raining pizza boxes, right? And CoinMarketCap actually put out a really good graphic that was the same way, and they compared it to real estate, right? And so, it was like over time, every 4 years, here's the average cost of a house. It's going up, up, up. And it's like, how many Bitcoin does it take to buy this house? And the number of Bitcoin's going down, down, down. Look at the long-term trends. Yeah. There's a lot to this, Yeah. And the funny thing is, if you read like all the Reddit posts and things like that, the people that got in early, every single one of them's like, I never thought it'd be worth anything. Yeah, I unloaded all of it, or I read one the other day where the guy was saying something about he was like 10 or 11 years old, and he told his dad, and he was like, Dad, you have to get Bitcoin. You have to get Bitcoin. And the dad just like brushed it off. and the Bitcoin was, like 50 cents a Bitcoin or something like that. And he just sort of, he completely brushed him off and disregarded him. And it's like, if you had taken $50 and just stuck it in there and said, all right, son, we'll leave it in here and we'll just see what happens,
It's absolutely, yeah, exactly. Like, what's $100 even,
Yeah.
At the grand scheme of it, like you said, you literally light $100 on fire every day, right? Day. So why not just do it? Like, I'll tell you, going back to what you said about like 2012, 2013, stuff like that. At the end of the day, I don't even fucking remember what I was doing 2012, 2013. I really don't. Probably nothing, right?
Right.
Probably playing freaking World of Warcraft or Baldur's Gate or some shit like that, right? But right now, this time in my life, what I'm doing now, 20 years from now, I will remember exactly what I'm doing, because this is a pivotal moment in my life when it comes to crypto and Bitcoin. And it's changing the entire trajectory of my life, I believe, as opposed to where my life could have went without it, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of people need to zoom out and realize that, right? That, don't worry about the anxiety and stuff like that you might feel on days like this, right? Like this means nothing. If you zoomed out on a Bitcoin chart, I promise you, this wouldn't even blip, right? You wouldn't even see the candle, So it's stay the course and stay committed, because you're going to kick yourself in the nuts 20 years from now if you don't, right?
Well, and these are the days like today that when it is up, you're going to be going, God, I wish I had bought when it was red. God, why didn't I get more when it was red? Right? It stays like today.
I get JASMY holders do that to me all the time. They say, like, because it felt like forever we were at like a 1/6 of a cent of JASMY, right? Yep. And I had people constantly telling me, well, I might wait until it goes down to, 1/4 of a cent. And then we jump up to like almost 3 cents. And now we're here, between 1 cent 5 and 2 cents 5, let's say, right? And I'm getting the same things. People are like, I might wait to see if it goes back to like 1/9 of a cent. And it's like, man, it's good. The next leg up is probably going to be like 7 cents and then a pullback to 5 to consolidate. And you're going to be pissed, right?
Yeah.
There is no good time, just dollar cost average. That's my opinion on it. What is this? Max showed Beat Wallet in 2000, and one by one the developers of JASMY, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to go back and watch that. Max hasn't put too much out lately. I know he's been busy with something, so there are no coincidences. Yes, exactly. Especially in Japan, right?
Especially in Japan.
Oh, what do we got? Jesse, can you tell us some of the coins you hold?
Okay. Obviously JASMY, That's kind of a no-brainer. Bitcoin, which I've been talking about incessantly. That's a no-brainer. There's some other ones that I like that they've done okay, but haven't maybe done what they could. Like I've always liked Polkadot, but there's been some arguments with Dot that their marketing needs to improve. They need to be more, I don't know, user friendly to sort of the outside world. Like it feels like a very enclosed thing with them. I think is the gripe, with Dot. But overall, Dot is very interesting to me because Dr. Wood is over there, and I like to follow the kind of the pivotal people like that, right? And he's one of those people that he would be working on Polkadot even if he was paid nothing and living out of a van down by the river. He'd be working on Polkadot for free. So I like that. So I have some Polkadot. I've been following the merger between Fetch, Ocean, and Singularity Net, and that was announced I don't know if that was this month or last month. A few weeks back, that was announced. I actually did a video on it. It's a really big deal for artificial intelligence. Basically, it creates the single largest AI project in all of crypto, and each of them kind of brings something different to the tech stack. So that's really cool. They all kind of add something new. So I do have some Fetch. I like Fetch a lot. I've always liked Fetch. As well as, I think the other two are pretty cool. So the idea of them combining, I mean, this isn't anything that's going to like flip overnight and go to the moon or anything like that. It's more of just a long-term, I believe in this technology, the decentralized AI. And I really like, with that group, it's kind of like a super group. So every once in a while, in like the music world, you'll have like a super group that comes about. I'm kind of gonna date myself here a little bit, but there was a group called the Traveling Wilburys that was Roy Orbison,
right.
yep, Tom Petty. You had Bob Dylan, you had George Harrison. You got all these guys in it. Another one I loved was the Highwaymen. You got Johnny Cash. Chris Christopherson, you got Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, right? So I think that going back to Fetch and Singularity Net and Ocean, when they combine to create ASI, what is the new token it'll make, and if you buy Fetch FET now, it converts automatically, so you don't need to do anything, but buy Fetch. If you believe in this kind of thing. I like that it's like this super group that they're all kind of coming together. Now, who knows if they can keep it together long term? I don't know, because they each kind of have different angles of maybe what they want. Like the big guy, Humayun with Fetch, he's like an entrepreneur, right? But then you've got Dr. Gortzel with Singularity Net. He's like passion. He brings the passion, right? Then you've got Bruce Pond with Ocean. He's like the business guy. And then also in Ocean, there's Trent McConaughey, and he's the doctorate, kind of at the same level of Gortzel, but a little bit different, right? So you really do have this like super group of characters that the last time you could argue that crypto has seen something like that was Ethereum. Okay. So you had Hoskinson on the same team. You had Vitalik on there. You had Dr. Wood was on there. In sense, they've all kind of split up and left. So they're sort of doing the opposite. And I don't know if anybody knows where that's going to go, but I really find that fascinating that they're like joining forces to create like the baddest transformer you've ever seen in decentralized AI. So I really like that one.
The Artificial Super Intelligence Alliance is what they're calling it.
Yes. Yeah. So that one's really cool. Let's see. Outside of that, I've always been a big fan of Polkadex, which is a decentralized exchange on Polkadot. A long time ago, I interviewed one of the founders from India, and I've just really always really liked them. The guys behind that one, they're very focused on the technology and on creating the best user experience. Maybe to a fault that some people find that very annoying. Because some people get annoyed with them because they're like, would you stop developing and just release something? Just put it out there, you know? And the coin hasn't really performed that great, but I bought a ton of it and I've been just staking it ever since, and I'm just going to leave it there. Is kind of the thought on that one. Some of the other stuff I hold, like I've got some BTT. I still have, or BTTC now. I still have that. I've been holding that for a long time. Whether that ultimately does anything or not is kind of debatable. If you're familiar with that one, that falls under the Justin Sun umbrella.
Yep.
And Tron, and he kind of, a lot of people don't like him because he's kind of annoying, and he basically just acquires projects as opposed to inventing them or creating them or along those lines. So a lot of people, I think, find him irritating. So could that ultimately do well? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It's a bit debatable. There was another one I used to always really like also that was Kadena. That Kadena. What was I can't remember the ticker.
KDA.
What?
KDA.
KDA. Yes. Yeah. I always really liked that one, and I've messed around a little bit with one of their dexes on Kadena. I was messing around with like a liquidity pool on that one. I've still got my money kind of just sitting in there waiting, you know.
Didn't a good chunk of the team leave Kadena though?
I don't know. I haven't really kept up with them. When I was following them, they had one main guy that was kind of the main founder behind it, right? He was the big one. Then they also had, I think it was Dr. Stuart Haber, I want to say, and he was like in the original Bitcoin paper. He was cited in there multiple times, cryptographer, been around forever. They had a lot of big time advisors. And then they had something called Kadena Eco, which was like a whole big collective group talking about it. Now, what happened in the time since is the market tanked, right? And Kadena went from trading at like $20 to like 80 cents. So it's nowhere near where it was. But do I think it could return? Definitely. It was I want to say Kadena was a layer 1 chain, way faster than Bitcoin ever was. A lot of big time positives with it, but it hasn't come back yet. You know,
it pumped really well in the last bull run alongside Solana, I believe.
It did. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a layer 1 smart contract platform, proof of work.
Yep. I really liked that one.
What else do we got? Beeb says, Jesse, pardon my question. Jasmy's birthday and Satoshi have what date in common? I apologize. I missed that.
It's April 16th. So Jasmy was founded April 16th, 2016. And I think that is the rumored like Satoshi birthday is April 16th. And I think it corresponds to the white paper, I want to say. But it's, again, going back to there's no such thing as coincidence. Why is Jasmy founded on the same date? Is that just because? Is it just sort of a shout out to Bitcoin? Or is there something more there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Macro Dip, sorry I'm late. Did you talk about the lockup? We did talk about the lockup, our thoughts on that at the beginning of the stream. So you'll have to go back and check that out, my brother. Got a couple of questions about the lockup that I guess that they missed. Just joining. Did you talk? I'm sure you talked about it as a good time to reload my Jasmy or wait. It's never a bad time, in my opinion, to dollar cost average, especially when Jasmy's down 5%. That's what I would do personally. I obviously can't tell you what to do with your money. What do you think, Jesse? Good DCA opportunity right now?
I look at it like this. If the market's red, it's a good day to buy. Market's green, it's probably not the best day to buy. Right?
Like I say, you chase big green candles, you get big red dildos, right? Oh man. YM Chop, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you for the live. Jasmy holders, be blessed. Absolutely, man. Best scam will be a scam to BTC. Great reset takeover. How you slam the bears? Definitely slam the bears. Man, if Bitcoin hits 1 million someday, does that mean Coinbase is over $1,000 per share? I mean, I think a lot of things are going to be far different in the future, in the next 10 to 20 years than we think. One of which is that, but also I think that MicroStrategy is likely going to become the first $1 trillion company out there for sure, if they continue to dollar cost average and hodl, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to see a lot of firsts, in my opinion.
Yeah, big time value.
Sorry, go ahead.
Going back in time, you always got to look at everything like in context, right? Like, I mean, even when we talk about Bitcoin just coming out in kind of that 2009-ish area, to me, that doesn't seem like that long ago. I feel like that was yesterday, but that was 15 years ago now, right? I can go back in time and kind of remember things. I saw a post. I don't know if you ever watched Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
So I was a big Game of Thrones fan, right? Just like everybody else, thought the ending sucked. Yeah. And so there was a post just yesterday. It was like, man, it's been 5 years since the Night King died on Game of Thrones. And I thought, wow, that was 5 years ago. Like, holy cow! Like that was a long time ago. Now, I mean, it doesn't really feel like it. I mean, time flies, and the way that things could be different in the future. I mean, just look at like the disruption with like Chat GPT. Kind of changed everything, right? Look at the buying power of our money. We were talking about it earlier how like inflation, right? How it's just eating away at the dollars that we use to buy things, and how I read a lot on Reddit, that this next generation, this younger generation now is kind of like the first generation that's got it worse than their parents, right? Like you could argue the boomers had it way better than the greatest generation in terms of, things that have come their way, right? And, I joke with my dad, I tell him like, I hope you're enjoying your Social Security because I know I'm never going to see any of it, but hey, enjoy those payments. Have a great time spending my money, I mean, you never know where the future is headed, or I think at some point, at least in the US, probably in Canada and else, probably all around the world, there's going to be some different rules and some different things that are going to change. You're still going to see, I think, these mega wealthy people, but you're going to see a lot of people at the bottom, like really getting squeezed. And I think you really got to take advantage of opportunities like crypto. I mean, you really do. Like when I mentioned earlier about Bitcoin and how I light hundreds on fire every day, right? Back in 2009, what was I putting my money in? Like my house payment, car payment, my 401k. What a joke. My 401k. It's, the whole time I've been putting money in there and the buying power has just been plummeting. It's like a roller coaster just going straight down. Yeah. So it's like, great. So I got a match on worthless money. Awesome.
Well, I have this running kind of concept that I talk about once in a while, and it's that when I say things are changing, like in the West especially, right? Like we are really, really seeing And it is a direct result of the leadership of the West, both in Canada and the United States, that the economies are going to get, you think they're bad now? I think they're going to continue, in comparison to the rest of the world, continue to decline, because our leadership is really, really, every single day that passes that people like Gary Gensler and Elizabeth Warren are in power, they're holding back innovation in the United States. And every day, the rest of the world gets a little further ahead. Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Japan, Hong Kong, right? Russia, Germany, China,
yeah.
Right? The list goes on. And the United States leadership continues to only be concerned with their pockets and the pockets of their friends. They're not, as cliche as it is a fact. They are not acting in the best interests of their country and the people in it. They aren't. And it's on the United States citizens to recognize this, and same in Canada, and start voting accordingly. Right? Like, it's the same thing with these rich people. I say, watch what they're doing with their money, not what they're saying. It's the same thing with politicians. Watch what they're doing with their bills and stuff like that, and what they're voting yes on and no on, as opposed to what they're telling you in commercials about how bad their opponent is. Right?
Yeah. Do you follow the on X, the Nancy Pelosi stock tracker? You follow that account?
No, I don't.
It's a really good one. It follows all of her trades, as well as it also exposes other politicians when they're making shady trades. When it's like, yeah, look at this trade. He bought, X amount of shares of this thing. Coincidentally, he was on the committee that just approved whatever going to them. And now he cashed it out and it's worth 8 times the value. Who'd have thunk it, right? And they follow Nancy Pelosi. And she's like the textbook example of this. Like her and the inverse Kramer are the two accounts that are funny like that, right? And they're always right, and they follow her, and it's like best trader in the history of the planet. Like last year, she made it however many millions of dollars on her $200,000 salary. You're like, come on, man, like, come on.
I remember that when Jack Dorsey was running Twitter, they had actually shut that page down. And when Elon came along, I think he reactivated it. Right?
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, it's like Elon said, right? He said when they took over X, he said, essentially every single conspiracy theory that anyone ever thought about Twitter and the US government turned out to be true.
They could be. Yeah, they could be. There could be a lot of truth.
Well, that's what Elon said. He said, as it turns out, everyone was right.
Hey, you and I have talked about Netflix before. So 2 documentaries. Okay. I would recommend this to you and to anybody who's listening that I saw recently that were really good. Like, how we were saying earlier, I don't believe in coincidence. I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. Like not to the crazy level. Like I'm not like, do you remember Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys? He was like the squirrely guy that had all the theories. Like I'm not that far, but I'm not like completely ignorant, right? So anyway, on Netflix right now, there's a couple of really, really good ones. So one of them that was recommended to me was one called it was like the Octopus Murders, I think. And it was all about basically this reporter that stumbles upon CIA activity. And he kind of goes down the rabbit hole trying to find out all about it. And he ends up being murdered. All right. And that one is just crazy. Like some of the stuff that they like assert in that documentary was just nuts. Right. So that was a really good one. Now, the second one that I just saw recently with my wife, we watched the Anti-Social Network. Have you seen this?
I've seen it on my Android box, but I haven't watched it yet.
You got to watch this, man. So the Anti-Social Network, it's all about 2chan and then 4chan and Anonymous. and kind of how this whole thing morphs in the background, and you see all the various implications and how it affects the things we do every day, the decisions that are made, and you see how all this stuff kind of festers under the surface and where it's coming from and kind of who's putting it out. It is like very eye-opening. Like you walk away and you go, my God, like there's a lot more going on than I ever realized, you know?
I'm going to watch that tonight now. I've
It's
been on the fence.
really good.
I've been on the fence about it, but yeah, now that you say that, I'm going to check it out for sure.
Yeah.
See if there's any, there's no real JASMY use. Yeah. But getting back to the Japanese or the Hong Kong ETFs, right? I just, for me, I think that this is going to be far more impactful over the course of the medium term than people realize for these Hong Kong ETFs.
Yeah.
It's being underplayed right now. I mean, you've seen the articles all over X right now and stuff like that. Oh, it's a disappointment. And, you know, I think it's misleading. I really, really do. I think that we're going to see the effect of it. And not only that, but I mean, I've also been reading that apparently like mainland China is kind of very much paying attention to whether it's successful or not to help them determine whether they want to take part in it, right? That is huge.
There was a post by Willie Woo. I don't know if you follow him, but he's kind of a Bitcoin guy. And he had posted about it that he said, he kind of showed a graph that basically showed the largest amount of crypto holders is Asia based, right? So there's a lot of interest in Asia. Now, outside of that, you know, you think about the money, the companies that are there. Who's to say there's not going to be like a MicroStrategy type company that starts buying into this ETF, right? That's Asia based. We know that they've got a ton of money over there in various holdings. And typically, you know, where did they hold those assets? Either in the US dollar or in US real estate. Okay. So if they want to start to pivot away from that, why not get into like the Bitcoin ETF, but from Asia?
Mm-hmm.
It's another option, right? And you think about long-term gains, you think about the cost of entry, you know, the fees that they're paying versus the fees they pay to acquire the US dollar or US real estate and hold it. Maybe it makes more sense for them to get the Bitcoin ETF in Hong Kong.
Yeah, well, I agree. Also, they were also talking about the potential of Japan looking at ETFs as well, right?
They should.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things is because of their dollars, just, I mean, their yen is just, you know, but I was reading that a possibility that they might come up with, which will help us in crypto, is like, look at this. This is ugly. This is ugly. That's the DXY. Is that, you know, one of the things they could try doing in Japan is starting to sell off these treasury bonds, right? Mm-hmm. And that's going to affect the US dollar, which would be fantastic for us right now if we could start to see this, you know, take a little bit of a steamer.
Yeah.
You know, and so whenever I see there's a problem with content creators, and because I see a lot of it, like right now, there's a lot of different factors that are contributing to why the market is in the shitter, right? And you get a lot of these content creators and they just put these hopium videos out about how, no, like, look, this chart says this, so it's going up. It's like, bro, the US dollar is on a tear right now, first of all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many factors that are causing this. Like, Grayscale is crapping all over our heads, these ETFs. Like, so why are you telling people that, you know, up only, up only?
Yeah. That's just how you build a channel on YouTube, right? There's a reason I've only got 22,000 or whatever the number is, because I actually tell the truth, right?
Yeah.
You know, how many thumbnails do I post that say 11,000%? And I go, huh? 11,000%? What? You know? And I mean, some of these guys, I mean, it's like every single video is like that. Personally, I don't watch them. I don't watch any of them, you know?
Well, I mean, for me, like, I know exactly what you mean. Like, I just literally this morning broke 4,600 subscribers because the last, I don't know, 2 weeks or so, like you said, I sounded, completely worn out because I was saying some things that weren't popular, right? I was saying, like, look, we're probably going down, not up, like, and like you said, I tell the truth. Same thing when talking about, JASMY and the lockup, and like, so there's some hard truths out there, right? And so people start to unsubscribe because you're not telling them exactly what they want to hear. And it's like, okay, like, it sucks to see you go, but at the same time, I got to keep my integrity, and my reputation intact here when it comes to being honest with you, right? Yeah. Like, I came on this morning, I was doing a live stream, and everybody's like, "Oh, the market's down. Do you think we bought them?" I'm like, "Down boat." No, we're going down further, right? It's not popular, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other thing too, I think for the watchers, always creating content, always being on. I don't know how you do it as much as you do it, honestly, because I would get completely fried. I don't think I could do that. Like I told you, I've kind of gotten to a place where it's like, if something's there that piques my interest, I'm like, I gotta talk about this, then slam, I'll put something out, But if it's just kind of quiet, if the market's just sort of flat, things are just kind of humming along, I don't really have a whole lot to say, but I will post it in X,
Well, my wife says I never shut up, so I mean that might be that's a good outlet.
That's funny. That means in the yin yang of your relationship, that means she's the quiet one and you're the loud one.
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's levels to quiet though, right? She's quiet, but then there's these other levels of quiet where you're like, I'm in trouble quiet, right?
Yeah. Well, like I always tell people, it's like, you're in a good relationship if you kind of compliment your partner, your spouse, whoever. Whenever you see one of your friends that's like not in a good relationship, it's because they're like dating like the same person. And it's like, this isn't going to end well because you both think you're right all the time. Like, you got to have that person that's like, yeah, you're right. Yep. And then they leave the room. They're like, he doesn't know anything. And that's a good relationship.
Exactly. I got this buddy of mine, and he met this girl, and he's all excited to introduce me to her and stuff like that a few months ago, right? And so he's asking me because she needs a job, so he wants me to hire her and stuff like that, right? And
yeah.
So he comes, he's one of those friends that never asks me for anything, right? So I gave her a job under the understanding that it's like you sink or swim, right?
Yeah.
Either way, I don't care. And he understood. So anyway, he brings her in one day, and again, they've only known each other for a few weeks, right? He's all excited. He's like, you got to meet my best friend, and he's like, you got to meet this girl, man. I'm telling you, she's the one. And they're sitting down in my office. And she's sitting here, and he's sitting here across from me, right? And they're talking over each other constantly, right? Every time he says something, she's rolling her eyes, and I'm just like, I'm looking at them both, and he thinks things are wonderful, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, this is not gonna go very well, man. Right? I try to tell him that, and then so he just stopped talking about it because I told him, because he keep asking my personal opinion. I said, I gotta be honest with you, man. You guys roll your eyes at each other. You've been seeing each other for like 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Imagine 2 years from now.
Yeah. Yeah. I fully get it.
Yeah, I've been with my wife now for almost 12 years, so it's we, like you said, we complement each other. We're the opposite, right? So yeah. I talk, and so when we go to social events and stuff like that, I talk, and she just sits there and rolls her eyes at me.
That's funny.
But I guess that's why I'm able to do this, because some people have the gift of gab, and and it's just like, well, but it is some days I get on here and holy shit, am I exhausted?
Yeah.
Right? Just tired. But people have questions. Yeah.
It can be mentally taxing, and I think it can absorb like your everything you got, and you can just kind of hit that wall sometimes. So, like typically on like on YouTube, people got to take breaks at certain times. I mean, you just have to, like if you think about like traditional TV, there's usually like a cycle to it, or a season, and then there's like a little downtime, and then it kind of comes back or whatever. What's different today is the whole 24-hour news. There's always got to be something to talk about and something happening. Everybody always wants to be first.
You talked before about filling those gaps, right? Those white noise, or sorry, those empty noise spaces in crypto, right? Because if you don't fill them, people will fill them with their own nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. So whenever you have like a period of nothing, you have to promote a narrative, or the narrative will be spoon fed to you.
He's lying to me.
Yeah. Like a lot of people with Hara, it just bugs them sometimes, because they're like, why can't this guy just communicate? Why can't he just just talk to me normally? And they're just so methodical. Like, when he did the 50 weeks investor relations, the IR, and then he did another 50 weeks, this was a year or two ago, whenever it was. He was very vocal all the time, purposefully. And he would tag that in every post: 50 weeks IR, 50 weeks IR, 100 weeks IR. Then then it ran out, right? The IR completely ran out. And then he went quiet. And everybody was like, where is he? Where is he? Is he even still alive? Is he even a real person? It's like, yeah, he is. But he's not doing the 50 weeks IR, so he has nothing to say to you.
Well, that's it. And a lot of people will compare, like Charles Hoskinson, for example. I mean, that man's like me. He doesn't shut up, right?
I know. He always goes. Yeah.
And the thing is that you're probably like, I'm not saying that Charles is not a busy man. I'm sure he's incredibly busy, but he very clearly has a work schedule that he has his downtime, right? Obviously. Yeah. Otherwise, he wouldn't be taking pictures of eagles on his arm with weird hats on and shit, and making videos from sunny Colorado, right?
Yeah.
So Hara, obviously, I would think that maybe Hara just has a lot more on his plate. I mean, you have Charles, who's really more of the guy, the head guy when it comes to Cardano, right? Cardonzo. Yeah. And when it comes to Hara, I would imagine he does have people overseeing him, like, Ando, Sato. He probably has some people that he has to answer to more exclusively than Charles would, I would imagine.
Correct. They're the owners.
Yeah. So, I mean, he has probably more on his plate, so to speak, in a lot of different ways than Charles probably does. And maybe at the end of the day, when he gets home, he just doesn't feel like sitting on X spaces and talking nonsense and attacking XRP army and stuff like that, right? Like,
yeah. So he's married. I think he has at least one kid, if not more. So he's the CFO of JASMY. He's the CEO of Janction, right? He's doing these presentations around the planet at various conferences.
He did 3 in April.
3. On top of that, he, I think he has been based in Tokyo. However, he has made mention of, I think it's Kanagawa, that he was going to be based more remotely moving forward, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he's got all that. And, and the other thing, too, was I want to say he owns something like at least months ago, it was that he owned, I think it was like 9 investment properties. Okay. So he's also a landlord. So he's a landlord. He's got multiple positions. He's got multiple people that, kind of report to him, whatever. He's got constant meetings with different crypto projects. He's got presentations around the planet. They've got meetings, with Panasonic, with the laptop one in India, all that stuff. So does he always have time to bullshit around on Twitter?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't, So I mean, you could make the argument, you could say, well, then maybe they need somebody who can. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the role that KJ fills now.
Which he's great at.
Yeah, he's good at it. But he doesn't have the knowledge that Hara has. So you can tell he's kind of in check a little bit, right?
Yeah. He can only tell you what he knows, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But he does put forth a fantastic effort for sure. I think he stepped in with the whole Telegram thing and done a fantastic job.
Yeah, he's done
to
great.
bring far more transparency. And I mean, like, this is the thing, is that, like, I get a lot of people that, like, I need updates on Jasmy. And I try to fill as many of those gaps as I can. But again, I'm one guy on one channel with 4,600 subs, right? I try to encourage people, follow IC Amphibian, follow Little Bidman, follow Dip Metaverse, right? Follow Brian. These guys are very good sources of updates and accurate information, which is important, is accurate information, right?
Right.
Because there is a lot of content creators out there, and I watch the videos. I watch them. I don't make comments on them. I don't call them out, but I watch them, and it's like nails on a chalkboard sometimes when I'm listening to them talk. I'm like, what the f- are you talking about? Have you done any looking into this at all? Or did you just read a headline somewhere and start talking nonsense,
Yeah, my favorite example of that, I may have told you this story, but it's a funny one, is my dad watching YouTube, and he likes James at Invest Answers, right? Oh, have you seen James's latest video? And I'm like, no, I haven't seen it.
Damn that guy.
And so he ends up watching James on April 1st, right? AKA April Fool's Day.
Oh, shit.
And he actually writes down on a notepad like 3 coins that James personally recommends. And one of the coins is actually shitcoin, and he's spelling it out. He said, I think it was a SH, maybe it was one SHIT coin. And I said, Dad, that's shitcoin. And he was like, what? I said, read what you just wrote. And he's like, huh? And I said, you realize it's April Fool's Day and you're the fool, right? He was like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's April Fool's Day. And he was like, I'm like, yeah. Way to take notes, buddy.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, Invest Answers, this is the thing. There are a lot of content creators out there, don't get me wrong, that make some good calls, right?
Yeah.
On projects. And Invest Answers might be one of them. But man, when they miss big. You know what I'm saying?
Ben Token.
Ben Token.
I thought it was going to hit.
Yeah. Like, he called KASPA not going to be a very good project. Boy, did he miss on that, right? He called Luna being one of the best projects in crypto. Boy, did he miss on that, right? Yeah. And I mean, there's another one, Crypto John, not to call him out, but he makes some good calls on the ones that he hits on. So full respect for that, full credit for that. He really does, right? But holy shit, when he misses, like when he calls a project dead, holy shit, right? Like, he called Gala at 1 cent. He called it a dead project and advised everyone get out. It shortly after went to 8 cents. So it like 8x'd on him. He called JASMY dead. Made up a bunch of, you probably heard the rumors about that one. He made up a story about how JASMY was migrating to a V2 token and the project is dead, and that they were only doing it to rip you off for your money and stuff like that. Just a completely pulled out of thin air story. I'm like, I can't even find a remnants of where you would misunderstand that kind of information. Where did you get that from? Right?
I don't know. But
I mean, that's why I say, if you want accurate information, that's why I try to encourage. Like I said, all the right people, like Little Bidman, Dip Metaverse, Brian, IC Amphibian, Max, great sources of real accurate information, backed up by, what they're saying. You know what I mean? So, and like on the subject of like content creators, there's another one there. I'm sure George from Cryptos R Us, right?
He doesn't like JASMY either. He said he's not a fan.
Yeah, someone asked him about it, and he fighted it.
My dad likes George.
Yeah. So I used to watch George all the time, right? Because he used to be anti-FUD. He was very, very, like years ago, he was like, he hated when people started spreading FUD about stuff. And I could get behind that. I respect it. I never FUD a project ever. If I don't like a project or I'm not interested, I just say, it's not something I put my money in. And I leave it at that.
Yeah.
Right. I would not spend 20 minutes burying a company that people have invested their money in. Right. So anyway, I stopped watching him because he started FUDding projects like XRP. I digress. I watched him a couple of times over the last, I don't know, a couple of weeks. And something that really, really fucking pisses me off is people will send him a super chat and say, can you look at this project for me? Like, I look at projects on my live streams for people all the time, right? Whether they send it in a super chat or they just request that I do, right? And it's just no problem. It takes 2 seconds. Go have a look at the tokenomics, blah, 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 let you know what I think, right?
Yeah.
So people will send him money to do this. And he'll just like, he'll be looking at, hey man, George, can you look at JASMY? $20 super chat. I'm not going to do that. I don't feel like it. Like, fuck you, buddy. They sent you money, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
and he's still not going to do it?
Yeah. At least if you're going to do that, turn your super chat option off while you're streaming then, right? That is like the shittiest attitude you can have, in my opinion, when you're live streaming. Is like, people are literally sending you money to look at something that takes 5 seconds, and you're like, nah, not gonna.
Did you see where he was on, or I don't know if it ever actually came out. It was like some TV show, and it was like the search for the next big crypto. And they're like, we have George and we have Wendy O and whoever the third lackey grifter was. I was like,
oh, Daily, probably.
Yeah. I just want to like barf in your cereal, like, this is terrible. And they're like, yeah, we're here to judge, like they're on like American Idol.
Yeah, I seen that. And it's scary out there. It is, because again, if you don't know better, the same thing with Wendy O. That woman does not talk about a single project that is not paying her to talk about it.
I know that. I'm very well aware of that. Yeah.
Like, and which is fine. As long as you're disclosing that to people, as long as you're
They never did. That was the problem. Her and BitBoy and all of them, they never disclosed it.
No. It's just, this is the greatest project in the world because they paid me money, right?
Yeah. BitBoy, he really had some problems once his pay sheet got out there on X and people started talking about it,
Yeah, it was like 20 grand for like a
40
grand. Oh my God. Yeah. Unreal. And like I can't remember who it was. Somebody was talking about that the other day on X, I think it was. And the question, it was Jungle Inc. Jungle Inc. was talking about it, and he was asking if people's opinions on whether if it's okay for content creators to take money from companies. And I was like, well, like for me, like I don't. I don't have any sponsored content on my channel at all, right? No projects whatsoever. Just I like to remain completely non-biased in it. And if I'm holding it, I tell everybody I'm holding it, right? And if I'm not, I say it's a good project, but I'm not holding it, right?
Yeah.
In saying that, I don't think there's anything wrong with those content creators. You know, like he was talking about Flair paying one of these content creators, like his XRP paying this content creator talk about Flair or whatever, right? Or his Ripple, I mean, not XRP. And it's like, well, for me, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm not going to judge another content creator for doing that as long as they're making it abundantly clear that they're not investing their own personal money. They're being paid to talk about it, because essentially what you're doing is a commercial, right? At the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and from the creator side, if you want somebody to create daily content for you, then you actually need to pay them somehow, right? Because they can't just work for free. Mm-hmm. So there is that give and take of it. But I agree with you. I think, you know, either you do it a few different ways, right? Like you either say, hey, the sponsor of today's video is XYZ. Let me tell you about it over the course of 30 seconds. All right, great. Here's my code. Go check it out, whatever. Yeah. That's one way to do it, right? Or you could say, just want to let everyone know this is a sponsored video. Today we're going to be talking about whatever coin. So you're letting people know that coin paid you to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
But what BitBoy and Windio and all of them never did was disclose any of that. No. You know, they're just covering these god awful shit coins, and you know, that's the biggest thing against them is like, look at all the times they've dumped on their audience. You know, like again and again and again, and really, you know, if you're going to watch one of them, you're more so watching it now for entertainment value than anything, right? Like that's why most people are watching BitBoy. They're like, oh God, like what's going to happen today? He's in the Charger. Where's he going? You know, oh, he's listening to gangster rap because he lives in Atlanta. Like, okay. You know, where is he heading to now, BitBoy? He's got, oh shoot, he just crunched an energy drink. He's got another one. You know, and you're kind of like, you're looking at it like, where's this train wreck going? Like when he was live streaming outside the guy's house that stole his Lambo or whatever, you know, and he's got his mistress in the truck and the cops get called. Anyway, that was entertaining, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I thought that was hilarious. The thing is with him, he reminds me of the guy that just like talks and talks and then is like victim mentality when it all explodes in his face. Like right now because I guess you could say he won that MMA fight that he was in, right?
He did. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was chosen as the winner of that. So good for him. But now he's all over X and he's like, I feel sorry for my next person I fight. And like, I don't know if you've seen that or not, and I'm like, man, do you not see you're setting yourself up here, right? You're going to keep doing this, and then you're going to meet somebody across the octagon who actually knows how to fight, and they're going to kick the shit out of you. And you're not going to be like, man, I feel sorry for my next fighter anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's like, all I'm saying is basically like tone it down because, you know, I get it. He's a very charismatic person, but he sets himself up for a lot of failures and then acts like a victim at the end of it. Right.
Yeah. It went to his head for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, like talking about, you know, his old company, for example, when they like, listen, I was supportive of that whole thing. I thought it was wrong to try to kick somebody out of their own company and all that kind of stuff. Very, very greasy stuff, right? But there's probably a lot more to the story on his end too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have no doubt that he, on some level, brought a lot of it on himself, right?
Really? You think so?
Yeah. I'm just, you know. Oh, man.
Anyway.
What else is going on in the chat here? Travis, talk about Crow with Hat. Honestly, man, all I know about Crow with Hat is that it's a meme coin on crypto on Crow. Like, I don't know anything to talk about when it comes to it, other than it'll probably do just as well as your other average meme coin. Do you know anything about it?
No, but I know how meme coins work.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a meme coin with no longevity, then it might have one good spike and then it's going straight into the dirt. If it's a meme coin with a little longevity, like it taps into something of popular culture like Pepe, then maybe it'll have a second run, maybe a third win. Who knows? SHIB, right? Maybe it's got something more to it down the road. Maybe.
It's funny you mentioned SHIB, because actually I did a correlation video the other day about SHIB and Junction. And what I was kind of talking about is what's going on with Shibarium a brief glimpse into the future of Junction. They recently, ERC20 token, right?
Okay.
And they had just announced, I think the day before yesterday, that they were officially migrating their Shiba Swap, their DEX, over to Shibarium, their layer 2, to get away from and cutting ties with Ethereum.
Yeah.
Right. And they said that they're going to be launching, getting launch pads on Shibarium now, and all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, is this a prelude for the potential of Junction to do something similar? Because I do hear and read a lot of talk about the building out of the ecosystem on Junction.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yes. So the layer 2 aspect of it, that's the side where everything comes alive. That's where the lights come on.
Yeah.
Where it is right now with Ethereum, it's just not workable, right? So why would you invest your efforts into a non-workable? What was a solution to start is no longer feasible moving forward, right? So I think when the lights go on the other side, it's kind of like they're building a house across the street, right? I mean, that's kind of what they're doing.
Yeah.
So
it's encouraging, because then you're going to see, like they talked about, lower gas fees, and better transaction times. And I'm honestly, one of the things I'm really looking forward to in the next few years is looking forward to how the Junction ecosystem does build out and flourish. It's going to be interesting what kind of projects are going to launch there, what kind of projects are potentially going to migrate over there, right? Like a lot of potential there.
Yeah, a lot of potential, and a lot of potential specifically in Japan, right? I mean, think of how many young Japanese kids want to get into this space. And if JASMY's already up and running and here's a place you can do it, why not, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm really looking forward to the future of it, man. Beeb says it sounds like one of the best ways to invest in AI in the crypto space is ASI token. I agree. And to be honest with you, you had mentioned something earlier, Jesse, about the short-term price action of ASI. I think there will be a buy the rumor, sell the news event. I think that because they are doing the one-to-one with Fetch, right? So I think that there are a portion of people who are stocking up on Fetch AI right now to catch some sort of a pump during the migration and then sell off. I think that's entirely possible.
Could be.
See something, but
yeah,
that might be a good time to dollar cost average into ASI if we do see that pullback, right? So.
Maybe. I had seen somewhere in there early on, after they had just made the announcement, they talked about the conversion, and I think it was theoretically on paper you could walk away with a larger holding if you were buying Ocean because of the way it was converting, but Ocean is an ERC20. That's the catch, right? Fetch has left Ethereum and is on its own chain. That's why they're all coming to Fetch, and Fetch is being renamed. So again, going back to the gas fee problem, you don't realize it's an issue until you go to do it, and Ethereum wants to, charge you half your entire position in the fee, right?
You want to try transfer $5,000? That'll be $10,000, please.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it works, and that's why everybody ultimately leaves Ethereum.
Well,
But
that's always puzzled me about Ethereum is just like if nothing changes and we haven't really honestly, if we cut through all the bullshit, we've never really seen any indication that there will ever be significant change on Ethereum in terms of gas fees and all that stuff. They
mhm.
talk about it every time they have an upgrade. They promise the moon and the stars, but it never actually changes anything, right? The gas fees in this bull run coming up are still going to be astronomical.
So think of it like this. Ethereum is a good launch pad. It's a good first car, right? So it's like your 92 Chevy Cavalier that you started with. That's where you learn to drive. That's your Ethereum, right? Now, what Vitalik has proposed is, hey, I think we can switch the parts out. I think we can do an engine swap. I think we can get better tires on this. That we're going to change out the AC. I'm putting some beads on the seat and a dice in the mirror, and it's going to make it better. It's still a Chevy Cavalier at the end of the day. Like it's never going to be a Corvette. You know what I mean? It's just not. And when you try and re-engineer it, that's asking a lot.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Venom, fun token is equipped. Fun token is equipped with a function that allows authentication. Yeah, that's the Hara tweet. I think you copy and pasted that. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Little Bidman actually has a really good kind of more accurate breakdown of it in greater detail. If you want to go over and check him out on X, shout out to him if he's watching. So absolutely. In the building, shared to Discord. Awesome.
Media. He's been around forever.
Yeah.
One of our friends across the pond.
Oh, nice, nice. What do we got? BitBoy brought it on himself. Say it ain't so. I can't be. Stand up guy. JASMY holding nicely with the dips. Yeah, JASMY has been relatively resilient against these pullbacks, to be honest. It just freaking broke. Like it's back up over the 1.7 support level again, right?
Yeah.
So it's been surprisingly resilient, in my opinion. Ethereum is like the future of taxation.
Yeah, it's like you don't know you're being taxed until you go to do something, and then they take your money.
Do you guys think Render will still outperform most AI cryptos in the height of the bull run? I think that Render will perform very well. I think it'll be in the top 4 in terms of performance, but I mean, this ASI project really has a lot of heads turning, in my opinion. It's just like they're not calling it a super group for no reason, right? So,
yep.
Maybe if Render partners up with I don't know what's another good AI project, right?
Well, have you looked at Render? Some of the advisors on Render are really kind of funny. It's like Ari Emanuel's on there. The Ari from Entourage is based on Ari Emanuel's super agent. He's one of the advisors. It's kind of like, okay. And then there's like J.J. Abrams, it's like a movie director. Like, come on, man. Like, I get it. You started this project probably in L.A. You got like some big street cred, joining up with you. But from like the crypto side, that seeing all those kinds of names kind of makes me a little hesitant, to be honest.
It's a red flag for me too. It is. Yeah. It shows that you're not for me, and this is just me, and it might be all bullshit, but for me, if a project has to do that, then it takes away from their confidence in the legitimacy of their project, right? It's no different to me than when you see, like I watched another content creator was doing a video on KASPA, and I was watching it. And for 90% of the video, all he did was talk bad about XRP, right? Don't
Okay.
tell me how bad XRP is in your KASPA video. If KASPA is as great as you say it is, and I love KASPA, don't get me wrong, I hold a lot of it. But if KASPA if you believe in it like you say that you do, then it should be able to stand on its own, right? And you should be able to just talk good about KASPA instead of holding it against another project and bashing that other project, right? Like, let it stand on its own merit, or don't talk about it.
Well,
right?
Think of this as an example. FTX, right? The platform should stand on its own. It should just work. The company should be a well functioning machine, right? FTX.
Yeah.
But the truth is Tom Brady's out there peddling it. Giselle's out there peddling it. Shaquille O'Neal, Kevin O'Leary, which all of them apparently now SBF is agreed to testify against, which is completely bizarre.
For what?
I don't know, man. Talk about, not just career suicide, but just straight up suicide.
Yeah.
Like, what are you thinking? Like, I don't know if he has any brain cells at all.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to get Shaquille O'Neal on because he was a spokesperson for a project? Do you know how many projects any given celebrity is a spokesperson for that never did a lick of research into the project itself? They just said, you want me to do a commercial on it? You're going to pay me how much?
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. Look at Voyager. Voyager had Landon Cassill, the NASCAR driver. They had Gronk. Gronk was like at the swimming pool talking about Voyager, how great it was.
Yeah, they had a NASCAR, actually a car painted, right?
Yeah. It had the Voyager logo. It was badass. Yeah. It was really cool looking, and they went down in flames. Just boom, lit the stack of dynamite, and down went the company.
Didn't they actually? I remember watching in the last bull run. Didn't the company actually put the Shiba Inu logo on the car?
I don't know.
I'm almost sure that they did. I watched a video on it, and the guy from Voyager was like, yeah, because they listed Shiba Inu and was this big thing, so they put this little Shiba Inu logo on the NASCAR. So everyone was like, yeah, we're going to the moon.
Right? Yeah, when SHIB was getting real popular, it was kind of like a competition between the various centralized exchanges for who could list it first. Who could list it? Hey, we've got SHIB. Now come over here. We got some SHIB. Come over here,
Well, speaking of that, what are your thoughts on, because, there's a lot of debate about KASPA. I don't know how much you know about KASPA.
Not much.
But it's a fair launch project, which means that, and it's decentralized, which means that there is no person, there is no, no entity to pay. So it has no tier 1 listings really. Okay. So there's all this, how realistic would you think that it is that exchanges would eventually just list it since there's no one to pay for a listing, right?
Not likely.
Not likely. You don't think that they're going to want those fees anyway, given the community behind a project like KASPA?
Maybe. Again, if you take the SHIB example, they did exactly that with SHIB, right? Yeah. Did SHIB actually come to all these companies and go, list us? I doubt it. They simply said, hey, we're getting on the hype train. Let's list SHIB. Yeah. So if the hype train becomes KASPA, then they'll all probably go about listing it all over the place. But if it doesn't, then they're going to be saying, well, KASPA needs to come to us and pay to list,
Yeah. Well, I know that for SHIB, the communities online, I remember being in the craze of it all, like watching it happen, and it was just trending like crazy all over X. Coinbase, when are you listing SHIB? Binance, when are you listing SHIB? And they just went down the list of every tier 1 exchange, right? Yeah. And they got their own way, right?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes that happens, but also bots really push certain coins, especially on X, where if it's popular, like something like Bonk, right? Like that got popular kind of overnight. There's 10 million posts about it that are tagging it over and over relentlessly. You kind of need that kind of hype behind it. So if KASPA never gets that, then it's really up to you know, even if it's like an open source type decentralized deal, you still have people that ultimately vote on it, on what to do with certain reserves and things like that. So it would just go about it a totally different way, you know.
I think that KASPA, honestly, I mean, it's so much like Cardano in the last cycle to me. Whereas, like, I'm sure you recall in the last cycle, all the FUD that surrounded Cardano was they don't have smart contracts, right? No one's building on there right now. And it just kind of was this layer one platform that was just kind of there, right?
Yeah.
And all the FUD around it. And I mean, KASPA ended up doing phenomenal Cardano ended up doing phenomenal in the last bull run, in my opinion. Made a lot of people a lot of money. And the tokenomics are almost identical to them. I think it's actually I think it's what, 50 billion for Cardano. I think it's the exact same thing. Yeah, I think it, or no. KASPA actually has half. KASPA only has 26 billion. So I mean that kind of works. So I mean I see a lot of potential there to mirror in a very similar way what Cardano did in the last bull run, right? So it's in the same status that Cardano was last time. No smart contracts yet. Whispers of smart contracts coming and all that stuff. So,
right.
For me, the only thing that ruins it for me is some of these content creators, and they're out there and they're like, yeah, the guy who created KASPA, man, it's actually, the creator of Bitcoin, and he just came out of hiding.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, but that's what they say, and it's just like, come on, man, like. That's a red flag when you start talking like that. Makes me worry about the project when I have you talking like that,
Yeah, that tells me you're trying to bait a bunch of really noobs. You're trying to bait noobs with a statement like that.
Yeah, like you're basically making like, hey man, KASPA, who knows? Maybe it's going to be $60,000 too, right? Who knows?
Who knows? All right, maybe.
So that worries me. But outside of that, I mean, I think it's a wonderful project. Like, again, I'm holding still like over 100,000 coins that I bought at a fraction of a cent, right? So obviously, I think it reached like 19 cents. So I'm still holding. I'm holding for the bull run, but I definitely see it as one that's going to do very, very well in this bull run, not unlike Cardano in the last one. I got some top picks, KASPA, JASMY, obviously, right?
And
it's funny because the more that Max and I talk with Brian about, these price targets that him and Dip talk about with the actual mathematical equation for their KPIs and stuff like that, it's just like, it makes you so bullish, man. And I'm like, you know what? Like I've pretty much committed to, I'm not selling 50% of my bag. I'm just not. I'm just going to hold it till 2029 and see what happens, right?
Yeah. It's probably worth the gamble, honestly.
Yeah, it's still going to be worth more in 2029's bull run than it is now, no matter what, right? So
yeah, well, that's what everybody going back in time says about Bitcoin.
Yeah,
they're all like, "Oh man, imagine if you never sold," and they're like, "Of course you would have sold. Everybody sold."
Yeah,
like almost nobody just simply bought it and held it. Unless they forgot about it or somehow lost the wallet that it went into,
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. When people ask me, they say, like I'm, JASMY to, $17 or whatever. And it's like, okay, fine. But hear me out on this. You're holding 1 million coins. When it gets to $2, you're not fucking holding it until 17. You're walking away with your $2 million, right? Like,
yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that. Only a fool wouldn't, right?
Right. What they say, a bird in the hand's worth two in the bush.
I have no bird. I have no bush. Yeah, good old Jim Carrey. Oh, man. Anyway, I'm sure you probably got somewhere you got to get off to, right?
I do, yeah. I got to get going. My wife's working late tonight, so I got to make dinner here with my son. Yeah, we got to do another one of these. Well, hopefully we'll get some more news.
Yeah, I want to organize the next like JASMY roundtable, I've talked with Brian, and he's definitely interested in coming on as well, right?
Cool.
If I can get it organized. But I mean, obviously, I'm gonna wait until something happens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we gotta have something to round table, right?
I don't know. You could just bring on Brian anyway. Brian, I don't know if you know this, but I want to say that he's like a career kind of like restaurant bar manager or something like that. He did that for a really long time. Like he doesn't do that anymore, but he did it long enough that it's like imprinted on his soul. So he's got like just a really kind of funny view of the world. I always really like talking to him.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and
Yeah.
he's so smart too. So smart.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I feel like the dummy in the room sitting around with all you guys. So,
well, you never know. I mean, we could think we know what's going on, and maybe none of us have any idea. You know what I mean?
Conviction is what matters, though.
Yeah. Just make it sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But as soon as something happens, I'll definitely be shooting all you guys a message to see. I'll try to coordinate when it works for everybody, and we'll get it going again. People loved it, so
all right.
You know, but
right, cool,
have yourself a great afternoon, brother, and I'll shoot you a message there, and we'll chat, and hopefully crypto turns around soon. I need some more KIR finance videos, brother.
Give me something to talk about, right? I'm not talking about Bitcoin. Even if I find out exactly who it is, I ain't talking about it because no one watches the video. So there.
Who are you guys, man?
I'll just make the video and watch it myself.
All right, brother. Thanks again for popping in, man.
All right, man. I'll catch you on the next one.
Okay.
All right, later.
All right, guys. That is it for today. I'm going to call it. I'll be back later this evening with another stream. You'll get your regular stream. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, guys. Click the join button to become a member of the channel. Join the Patreon. There's a lot of great, valuable information over there as well. And follow me over on X, guys. Thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate it.